Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our MC for today's event, Josh Teigen, president of Mindshift.
Good morning, and welcome to the 2019 State of Technology. As mentioned, I'm Josh Teigen. I'm the current president of Mindshift. I'm a Fargo native, and I've started or invested in dozens of businesses over the last several years here in the great state of North Dakota. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys, and we have a great lineup of speakers today. So the Chamber, first of all, would like to thank Senator Hoeven. This is the 9th year of partnership between the Chamber and Senator Hoeven for this event. Before we get started, we'd like to recognize our sponsors, because without them, none of this would be possible. So special thanks to our presenting sponsor, which is Dakota Carrier Network. Our gold sponsors, Microsoft and Midco. And silver sponsors, Bank of North Dakota, Consolidated Communications, NDSU Research and Tech Park, Network Center, ReadyTech IT Solutions, True IT, and then our corporate table sponsors, which are Pario Systems, Border States Electric, High Point Networks, WEX Health, and our event production sponsor, which is Media Productions. So let's give these companies a big round of applause. So these companies believe in the future of North Dakota and the importance in technology and helping us achieve our goals. So this is, again, the 9th year that the Chamber has partnered with Hoeven on the State of Technology, and every year this event continues to grow. So we have a full house of over 300 people here today, which is super exciting. Technology plays an important role in our state's growth and development. We're much more than just oil and gas and agriculture, although there's a lot of technology around both of those things that make this state truly a very diversified, great place to live and work. The Chamber and Senator John Hoeven are happy to have you here today and to discuss the important topic and celebrate the innovations happening right here in our own community. Something that I'm super passionate about is celebrating the great companies that we have right here in the state of North Dakota and kind of highlighting those, because I think we can all do a better job of realizing how unique and how special some of the companies that are right here are. So I hope today that you not only learn something new, but you're able to take something back to your own organizations as we work to build North Dakota as a technology hub. And something that I say in a lot of presentations when people ask me, Josh, how have you started these different businesses? And I say, if you're driving down the road and in your mind you're constantly looking for a red car, you're going to see a red car before too long. If you're going through life and you're constantly looking for opportunity, you're going to see opportunity. And so I'd encourage all of you to listen to the presenters today, be looking for opportunity to partner and collaborate, or even just celebrate the different companies that we have here in the great state of North Dakota. A few housekeeping things before we get started. We have a full agenda, a lot of great information in a few short hours, so we're going to push through without an official break. Coffee and snacks are located in the back, and restrooms are located in the back left, so just feel free to get up and use those as necessary. Your table mates will thank you for that. Also, please be sure to share what you learned today on Twitter using the hashtag StateOfTech19 throughout the event. Our presenters will be sharing great information, and you can help that information reach others by sharing this on Twitter. So put your phones on silent, but feel free to be tweeting throughout the event, hashtag StateOfTech19. So that's enough from me. Let's go ahead and get started. So Seth Arndorfer has served as the CEO of the Dakota Carrier Network since August of 2013. Dakota Carrier Network is a North Dakota fiber optic network owned by 14 independent broadband service providers that serves more than 164,000 subscribers in nearly every community across the state. DCN also provides business technology solutions, including dedicated internet, private mesh networks, cybersecurity services, cloud computing, and co-location at its Tier 3 data centers in Bismarck and Fargo. Seth has more than 20 years of experience working in the North Dakota telecommunications industry. Please help me welcome Seth Arndorfer, CEO of our presenting sponsor, Dakota Carrier Network.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh. Oh, good morning, everybody, and like Josh said, welcome to the 2019 State of Technology Conference. I'd like to thank Craig, the Chamber, Senator Hoeven for their support of this event, and just the continued popularity and attendance at this conference just shows our state's commitment to being a technology hub in the United States. DCN's proud to again be this year's presenting sponsor, and I recently heard a quote that sometimes what we see is sometimes it's what we don't see is what matters. And that's really what I'm going to be talking about today. We talk about our fiber, but really from an end user perspective, it's all about mobility. And a lot of people maybe don't understand that, but I'm going to kind of shed a little light on that today. But when you go into your kitchen and you turn your kitchen sink on, how often do you wonder if water's going to come out of that tap? Really never. We just assume that each and every time that we want to get water, that water's going to be there. And I think from a technology perspective, we've gotten to that point with broadband. Whether it's if I'm in Fargo, in downtown Fargo, or my hometown of Hettinger, North Dakota, if I'm in town, if I'm out of town, out in the wheat field, or I was back last week in the hay field, I expected, and my kids were along with, and they expected that same broadband experience, no matter where they were. And that's really, as service providers, what we're striving to accomplish. Our businesses are using mobility to interface as that is their primary interface to their customers. Whether we're using it for banking transactions, whether we're using it to monitor our health devices, it's really every aspect of our life is impacted by that mobile device that we carry with us each and every day. And with the recent advancements in technology, I have friends and family members that say, "Man, Seth, are you worried at all about you're so vested in fiber that as the world goes 100% mobile, are you going to be obsolete in 5 or 10 years?" And the reality is, a lot of people don't understand how wired and wireless work together to complement each other. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. For example, if I were to call Senator Hoeven's cell phone, and I'm not sure if Senator Hoeven's in the audience, but let's assume that I had his cell phone number, and I was going to call him. My cell phone is constantly looking at and reaching out for the strongest cell phone signal that it can find. And in this case, it's right down just 2 blocks south of here. If you leave and you're heading south, you can see it right at the intersection of 25th and 13th Avenue. And my cell phone is saying, "This is where I am, this is where I am." So if I dial Senator Hoeven's cell phone number, it hits a fiber. Typically, it's a DCN fiber or an owner company fiber or another fiber provider in North Dakota. It hits that fiber, and it goes down to Minneapolis, to the major wireless carrier switch. And it says, "Where's Senator Hoeven's cell phone?" And Senator Hoeven's cell phone says, "Well, I'm actually in the same room and connected to that same tower." And then it runs it back on the DCN fiber to that tower on the 13th and 25th intersection, and it makes his cell phone ring. And all that happens in less than 50 milliseconds, faster than you can blink your eye. And that's really the beauty of how fiber is impacting wireless. And as we continue to do more and more and challenge our networks more and more, the densification of our fiber networks is growing so that now we've built, I'm going to go to this next slide, across the state of North Dakota, we have nearly 1,000 macro cell sites, or those taller cell sites that that are across North Dakota. And I have a picture there again. They're roughly 125 feet. Those are what we call macro cell sites. But those macro cell sites in some cities, we don't want to have one of those on every block. So what we've done is to increase capacity, we've worked with the wireless carriers to deploy small cell technology. And small cells are really no larger than a street light. That's where this is actually on the NDSU campus. And we've deployed small cells on NDSU, UND, Bismarck State College, and across the state where the population is more dense, or if you've ever gone to an NDSU football game and tailgated, you might have 5 bars of data, but you can't even get a text message or a Twitter post to go through. And the reason isn't coverage. We have coverage. There's plenty of cell coverage, but there isn't the capacity for all of us to use our mobile devices simultaneously. And that's really where the next evolution in technology is going to go, is how can we create more capacity for our wireless networks? And we can only do that by leveraging the fiber infrastructure, adding more access points. If you think of your home and Wi-Fi, you don't cover your home with one access point, you have multiple access points. And that's really where we see the future going as DCN, is continuing to invest in fiber optic infrastructure to grow our state's capacity. As we look to the future and 5G, the impacts of 5G that are gonna have on our life, we can't even really predict them yet. We have a lot of ingenious companies in North Dakota that are working with precision ag, that are working with telemedicine, telehealth, and we're gonna leverage that technology as we go forward. But 5G has a limiting factor, and that's the reach that it has. That small cell that goes on a streetlight that I showed at NDSU campus has really only about 1,000 feet of coverage. So as we look at precision ag, we have to look at other technologies, and DCN and our owner companies are exploring several different technologies. We've been working with Microsoft to explore TV white space. We've also purchased some CBRS spectrum. There's many different spectrum solutions out there. And as a service provider, as a fiber service provider, we are really looking at any and all technologies to make sure that North Dakota is positioned to support the technologies that the businesses that you're going to hear from this afternoon are going to need in order to be successful. So with that, I'm excited to hear from our speakers as every year, and thank you again for coming.
Thanks, Seth. And if I took anything away from that, it's I now know who to yell at and call if I'm out hunting in rural North Dakota and I don't have service, or if I'm tailgating and can't post on social media. So Seth, please leave your number for the rest of the group as they're interested in that as well. Next up, we have our next presenter, Dr. Greg Wettstein. He's the co-founder and principal engineer for ID Fusion, North Dakota-based technology company that applies identity theory to the challenges associated with the implementation of autonomously self-defensive computing platforms. And the great thing about events like this is it's surrounded by people that are a lot smarter than me. So I'm looking forward to hearing what all of that means. So Dr. Wettstein.
Thanks, Josh. First of all, on behalf of my colleagues at ID Fusion, Rick, John, Scott, and of course our golden retriever, Izzy, I wanted to thank the Chamber and Senator Hoeven's office as well for giving us the opportunity to come out for just a few minutes today and talk about work that we're doing to enable our region to emerge as an internationally recognized player in cybersecurity engineering and architecture. And just before we get started, there was one housekeeping item I have to deal with, and it's a question my dad asks whenever he finds a picture of me on the internet out speaking. He says, "What's with the hat?" It's a question you guys are probably having as well. And I tell my dad that when you show up with a business model of vanquishing international cyber villains, you have to look at least as good as the guy that they would hire to find the lost Ark of the Covenant or something similar to that. And so this hat is my favorite hat. It's been with me for cybersecurity engineering meetings from Silicon Valley to Israel. So I just always wear it as sort of my good luck symbol. I come from a family of educators, and if I was to offer one comment in terms of the future competitiveness of the United States, it's that we're going to have to engage, and this is based on 5 years of working to emerge on the national stage as a recognized cybersecurity engineering company. And that is we have to have demanding programs for our young people in cybersecurity, engineering, and architecture if we're going to remain competitive. So that's why we formed ID Fusion, is to provide the infrastructure, if you will, that will help make the country safer in the face of the international challenges that we're facing. We have to step back for a minute and say, why do we need to worry about secure cyber infrastructure? And the reason that I talk about this is that as a society, each and every one of us has allowed ourselves to become addicted to what we call cyber cocaine. It becomes, with the commoditization of microprocessors, ubiquitous networking, you can take a cheap hardware platform, slap an operating system, and a cheap application stack on top of it, connect it to the internet, and you can do amazing things with it. The problem is that time to market and features are the compelling architectural designs of these systems and not cybersecurity. And as we become, as a society, critically dependent on literally billions of these devices, it becomes imperative that all of these devices are doing our bidding rather than the bidding of potential adversaries. And with these particular class of devices that are taking over society, it becomes imperative that we develop engineering strategies that allow us to build what are known as trusted systems, which is what ID Fusion specializes in. Now, this is all a business community out here. We can level set everybody a little bit. We have the Illuminata of the Fargo-Moorhead business community here. So who here feels that the internet has either changed or is requiring them to change their business models? I think everybody agree to that. Who feels that maybe it exposes them to risks that they necessarily, wouldn't have to face if we weren't embracing technology? People agree with that as well. Who feels that they want to lay off 12% of their gross revenue to making sure that they're not threatened? Not so many people. And with that, Ryan, could you give us that video from our sponsor?
Companies have been negligent in their efforts to produce secure software for smart devices, websites, and other systems which have been manufactured or provided for your use. They have sacrificed your cyber safety for their profit. If you have lost personal information or been injured by hacking, you may be eligible for compensation. If your home or business has suffered a loss of its internet connectivity, you may be compensated for your loss of productivity. The law firm of Isidore, Ignatius, and Melchizedek is dedicated to helping you hold these negligent companies responsible. These companies had the opportunity to produce secure software, but chose not to. If you, your family, or your business have been hacked, injured, or suffered monetary loss due to this negligence, please contact us, and we will help you hold these companies responsible. Remember, call the law firm of Isidore, Ignatius, and Melchizedek at 1-888-801-0902 if you believe you have been hacked due to the negligence of others.
So absent significant statutory or regulatory action by Washington, D.C., something that those of us in the cybersecurity engineering world feel just isn't going to happen, that scenario is what will affect everyone in this room with respect to the fact that as we deploy these devices, we lay ourselves open to potential liability concerns. If anyone doubts the correctness of that, talk to the ex-CEO of Target. And just last week, adding to that, you won't be able to probably read that URL, but Microsoft and the FBI found out that there was a Russian-backed state hacking group that was using these very edge devices as platforms to compromise industrial networks. So with respect to business objectives at ID Fusion, what we focus on primarily is protecting 10 billion devices rather than 10 million servers. Our direct competitor in the field is a company out of Mountain View in Silicon Valley, and they focus on applying the same technology we do, but only into the cloud environment. We use this technology that I'll discuss just in a couple of minutes to create security infrastructure for these intelligent network endpoint devices. And in the process, we also provide SGX integration support for both cloud and INET-based software environments. And I'm pleased to say that as of last week, we have a preliminary indication that there is a group in the Far East that will be developing security architecture to protect infrastructure that unfortunately I'm not able to disclose at this time. So we essentially embrace two technologies in order to deliver this secure infrastructure. The first is autonomous introspection, which we just had our patent granted in July, born and raised right here in the Valley. And essentially it allows us to create devices that have three characteristics. Devices have a knowledge of what their intended behavior should be, the ability to determine whether or not they're operating in a manner consistent with that desired behavior, and finally are capable of taking very precise and targeted actions in response to a finding that they are operating outside of their intended behavioral definition. And we were fortunate enough to be invited to DHS headquarters in Washington, D.C. last September, where we demonstrated the ability of this technology in real time, back to servers in Fargo, to block the Equifax vulnerability that was used to take over Equifax, and I don't think I need to discuss the impact that that had on society. The other technology that we embrace that is actually an enabling technology for autonomous introspection and is a security technology in its own right that allows us to create the concept of security archipelagos is something which is called a brand new invention, came out about 4 years from Intel. And since we have IT people in the room, could we raise a hand of everybody who's heard of Intel Software Guard extensions and why it should be a critical component of your security IT infrastructure? This is what I tell Intel. They have a marketing problem on their hands. But anyway, they aren't listening to us. So anyway, well, they are a little bit, actually. That's the interesting thing. So what Software Guard extensions allow us to do, they're processor instructions in microcode that allow you to create secured enclaves or islands in memory that are formally known as trusted execution environments. We can then use concepts called local and remote attestation to stitch these environments together so we can create essentially islands of security that even if the platform is compromised by malware, allows the code and the data that's being processed in these islands to remain secure. And then there's the ability, Intel fuses unique encryption keys into the dies of their processors for the last 4 years that are using this technology, and we can implement something which is called host-specific enclave authentication, which allows us to safely put intelligent endpoint devices onto the network and specify at the processor level which devices can communicate with one another. And in the process of working and evolving these technologies over the last 4 or 5 years, for a small company in North Dakota, I think we're a good indication that there's no barriers to companies in North Dakota emerging at the international stage. Our primary technology partner is Intel, which many people have told us is really unusual for 4 guys and a dog out in North Dakota. In mid-June, I received a phone call, said, Dr. Gregg, can you be in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in 2 weeks? We're having a small sit-down meeting to discuss how we can enhance our security platform. And 2 weeks later, and 2 very expensive airplane tickets later, I was sitting with 5 other company leaders, 1 from the United States, Fortanix, 3 from Israel, and 1 from China, advising Intel on how to modify their processors to better take advantage of this technology. One of the interesting things that's coming out on the international stage is we were approached by a company called CyberArmor that's backed by one of the top cybersecurity venture firms in Israel, and we'll be working with them through the state to establish a BIRD Foundation grant to tie activity in North Dakota back to activity in Israel for advancing the use of SGX technology to secure the energy industry. And finally, we're going to just show you a quick chunk of video if you want to run it, Ryan. From one of our partners that we're just developing here called a relationship with in England called Cortexica. Do you have that? So the interesting thing about this technology is that Cortexica puts massive amounts of intelligence out into their edge devices. so that they can do artificial intelligence processing, neural net processing, using some specialized processors that Intel has brought to the market, and they do things like localization of personal protection to make sure that people are entering workplaces safely. They're also providing facilities that you'll see that they'll just talk about here in a little bit, for example, visualizing graffiti. And the reason they come to us is because with our host-specific enclave authentication, we can answer the important question that is brought to this company saying, how do you even know that the camera shooting the video is the camera that you think it is? And when you think about liability and what's going to happen, even as Orwellian as video surveillance is, the lawyers are going to get involved, and there's going to be a require for proof of the authenticity of this video, and that's what we bring to the table. And just two last thoughts for everybody in the room to think about. When in the history of mankind has a nation willingly allowed foreign entities with adversarial interests to inject offensive capabilities in every aspect of our life? And that's what's happening to us right now. And finally, how do we, the US, compete in a world where the only barrier to dominance is ingenuity? And with that, from Izzy and the boys at ID Fusion, thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of the morning.
Thank you, Dr. Greg. And at this time in the event, I'd like everyone to grab their bidder numbers at their table, because Seth has left his cell phone up here, which means if you need the number to call when your reception is bad, I have it. So thank you. Well, the next presentation that I'm actually super excited about, as the kids these days would say, I'd call myself an Aldevron fangirl. And this is a company here in North Dakota that's kind of reached a level of celebrity status, especially as of late. My first exposure to Aldevron, I think I was 17 years old, and I was meeting with a guy named Michael Chambers at a steel-sided building behind Hornbachers on 32nd. And now it's grown a little bit from there. So next up, we have Dr. James Brown, who's the Vice President of Corporate Development at Aldevron, and he's going to update us on how they're growing Keyers in North Dakota with the expansion of its facilities, workforce, and innovative productions. Aldevron manufactures biological materials including plasmid, DNA, RNA, proteins, enzymes, and antibodies for the biotechnology industry. These products are critical for the discovery and production of many treatments that are in development and on the market today, helping to cure diseases and address some of the most unmet medical needs. And right here in Fargo, we have the largest DNA manufacturing facility on planet Earth, which is actually pretty exciting. So help me welcome Dr. James Brown.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, and wanted to thank the Senator and the Chamber for having us here. And I really enjoy this event because, you know, we say they're presentations, but they're really stories. Everybody likes a good story, and there's so many good stories that come out of North Dakota. You know, John Ballantyne and Michael Chambers started the company 21 years ago at a small lab on the campus of North Dakota State University. And I know they've enjoyed becoming part of the story of technology growth in North Dakota and how it impacts people. I've heard the Senator say many times in various ways that the technology is really about the people and their innovation and then their impact on others. And that's what we really are privileged to be a part of. So, you know, in technology and certainly for Aldevron, it's all about growth. So we, a little bit of a play on words here, but we grow bacteria and use them as factories to make medicines. And the number of clients and the number of patients that they're affecting is really growing tremendously. Our facilities in North Dakota are growing, and our commitment, as is our commitment to the state. And Aldevron team is growing in North Dakota and worldwide. So we're really excited about these different aspects of growth that we'll talk about today. So I want to give you a little bit of a sense of what we do and how we do it. So DNA is really a set of instructions, kind of like software code. And we work with bacteria, and bacteria generally have two types of DNA. There's the bacterial DNA, which has instructions to make another bacteria. And there's also smaller pieces called plasmids, and these give the DNA, the bacteria, maybe like a superpower. So either the ability to resist an antibiotic or toxin, or the ability to live in a harsh environment. And these bacteria naturally pass these plasmids around. Since bacteria are single cell, they multiply by dividing and making copies of themselves. So this passing around these superpowers allows them to get some biological diversity. So what we can do is create synthetically a designer plasmid. This is kind of an expensive process, but we can engineer a target gene to treat disease, as well as give the bacteria the superpower. We can convince the bacteria to take up this plasmid because it naturally does it, so we can force it to do so. And then not all the bacteria are going to get that superpower. We're going to kill all the ones that don't have it, because the ones with the superpower also have this target gene. So we're going to grow a lot of those bacteria. And we are innovating in this area in a variety of ways. We're designing better superpowers that are safer and more effective, making the plasmids smaller so there's other stuff in there, and we're trying to get rid of as much as possible. We're growing to larger scale. We're at 300 liters, just announced 1,000 liter, and we're going to go well beyond that. And we're working on better purification technologies to increase the yield. So ultimately, we're going to grow a treatment for a disease. So we're going to take that bacteria that has this plasmid, and we're going to either isolate the DNA and treat disease and have the body make the protein, or we're going to treat disease with the protein. It just depends on what our clients want. And we're innovating in these areas as well. So we're designing novel proteins with some partners, optimizing the DNA sequences, and there are certain biological processes that require the same type of plasmid to make a general drug, and then some plasmids are specific, so we're creating off-the-shelf products for these commonly used plasmids. We're partnering with some of the best companies of the world, Asclepios Biosciences, Oxford Genetics, and Integrated DNA Technologies, which is very similar to Aldevron in the sense they grew, small company in Iowa, so Midwestern roots, so we have a lot in common with them. So our clients are discovering novel genetic sequences to treat disease. And these instructions are used to supercharge cells, in this case outside the body, then they're reinfused, and they're able to address some of these illnesses like cancer, beta thalassemia, and bubble boy disease. So we manufacture those materials that these companies use to create these drugs. There's a few examples here. In fact, these are the 4 examples of drugs that are on the market, and in the past 2 years, we've seen a real progress here. Kymriah is a drug that treats leukemia, and in November this year, Aldevron hosted a symposium where we had a lot of scientific speakers come, and it was very exciting presentations. We also had one of the first recipients of this drug in a clinical trial. Her name was Emily Whitehead, and her father, Tom, came and told a compelling story about her experience, and she was basically at death's door and was able to get this drug and is 6 years cancer-free. Another way is to take these novel genetic sequences, design an engineered virus, and deliver that right to the body. And there's some drugs that are on the market today that that work in this way. Luxturna cures an inherited form of blindness. Glybera addressed a metabolic disease, but it was actually taken off the market and not pursued in the United States because it just didn't work that well. So for all these successes you see, keep in mind that there's a lot of failures. Another way that we treat disease is our clients discover novel replacement DNA, and they use a technique called gene editing, where you literally cut and paste the genome of the cell outside the body and then reinfuse it back in. And these supercharged cells fight cancer, are now curing sickle cell disease and cystic fibrosis. There's nothing on the market yet. The first trials just started, and many companies are pursuing gene editing, and the clinical trials are getting underway. It's very exciting. So there's a lot of investment and growth in gene therapy manufacturing. So by 2025, the FDA expects to approve 10 to 20 drugs in this area, and by 2020 have 200 applications per year and hire 50 new reviewers. You might have heard that EQT, the 7th largest private equity firm in the world, made an investment in Aldevron and in North Dakota. So they really like our roots here. It's a Swedish company, so they get the whole Scandinavian thing. So it's a very exciting development for the company. And then we've got the Fargo campus. So you can see here the current space in light blue, and then the different phases of our expansion. At the end, we're going to have 500,000 square feet, over $1 billion in products and services. So why don't we cue up the first video here, and we can show you a little bit more about this. So we're also making investment in our employees and our teams. So here's a couple photos. The first two from a job fair that we had where we just opened up our facility and had potential candidates coming in. It was a lot of fun getting to meet potential new employees, and we're going to keep doing those as we fill all of the positions that we constantly have open. And then the last photos from a all-company meeting we had. As we get bigger and bigger, we need tents to get everybody in the same room. So you can see our growth at the bottom and looking to grow to over 1,000 employees. And we're really growing our employees as well. And we can go to the next video and show you a little bit about one of our employees' experiences.
My name is Hannah Demmer, and I'm a quality control analyst in the research grade labs at Aldevron. I recently graduated from college, and I wanted a job in my major, which was biology. I think Aldevron is a great place to come right out of college, especially for me. I have learned so much with critical thinking, with processes of the scientific nature, as well as fine motor skills. And because this is a company that is growing so fast, there are many opportunities to grow and expand your knowledge. We use a lot of teamwork, we use a lot of ingenuity, and we focus on getting the job done together. One thing I would tell someone coming right in is this is a biotechnology company. So take a breath, learn one word at a time, learn one process at a time, and soon you'll look back and be like, wow, I can't believe how far I've come.
And again, we can't believe how far we've come. John and Michael, thank you all, and the community in Aldevron. It's a privilege to be here and grow, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I wasn't going to share this story, but I feel like I have to now. So one of the best questions I've ever asked was, I was talking to Michael Chambers, and I said, how did you come up with the name Aldevron? And he didn't respond right away, and he said, so there's this star called Aldebaran. It's like the 14th brightest star or something in the sky. And he said, and as you notice, the logo has kind of like a sun or star look to it. He said, yeah, there's this star named Aldebaran. And I wanted to name the company after that, but when I filed the paperwork with the state, I spelled it wrong. And I spelled it Aldevron, and so that's where the name came from, and I feel like that's a secret that needs to get out, because someone that brilliant to build a company like this actually spelled the name of the company wrong on his filing paperwork, which I think is absolutely hilarious. So if you run into Michael, ask him if he has improved his spelling yet. But all right, thank you, James. And this is just a reminder to the audience to take a break as needed. As we mentioned, we have a lot to get through, so feel free to get up and move around the cabin. We're at cruising altitude. So next up, we have Dante Batacci and Holly Anderson Batacci with Eleanor Coatings. Eleanor researches and develops safer, longer-lasting coatings to protect aluminum, magnesium, and bronze against corrosion and degradation. Eleanor was the first North Dakota company to license non-agriculture technology from the NDSU Research Foundation and has successfully transferred 3 NDSU-developed concepts to the market. Let's give a warm welcome to Dante and Holly.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Senator Hoeven for inviting us to talk to you about the state of coatings technology and what we do here at Eleanor. So I'm Dante Batacci, and for 20 years I've been researching new materials and protective and specialty coatings. At the end of my doctorate in materials engineering at the University of Trento in Italy, I wanted to learn how to protect metals. My specialty is aluminum corrosion, and in 2001 I came to NDSU to study in the Department of Coatings and Polymeric Materials, the oldest coatings department in the country, and in NDSU it's one of the only 4 universities in the US that have a department especially dedicated to coatings. The project I worked on at NDSU was developing a new chromium-free primer for the Air Force. Chromium is very effective to protect metals from corrosion, but like asbestos and lead, is very toxic or cancerogenic. Erin Brockovich, the one that was featured in the movie, has been fighting its use for 30 years now. Then he needed a modern replacement. Since then, I worked on projects with the largest paint companies in the world, AkzoNobel, PPG, Sherwin-Williams, Valspar, and did a lot of research with DoD, with the Air Force, with the Navy, and with the Army. I now supervise a group of people, of men and women from 6 different countries, who live and work here in North Dakota to maintain our reputation of leaders in corrosion and coatings research. As the world moves toward high-performance and sustainable products, manufacturing and waste management, the material we use to make everything we need have to evolve to be high-performance and sustainable as well. Coatings are everywhere. If you look around, every surface we interact with is painted with something. So functional coatings are anti-corrosion, anti-ice, anti-fouling, anti-slip, antimicrobial. There are also decorative coatings, high gloss, color matching, pearlescent, polychromatic. At Eleanor, we mainly work with anti-corrosion coatings. We're now seeing changes in our industry in the substrate used to make stronger, lightweight products and fuel-efficient vehicles with more interesting designs. So instead of only dealing with steel, you'll see aluminum, magnesium, titanium, new metal alloys, composites, and 3D printed materials made from agricultural byproducts. A lot of that research and manufacturing is also happening here in North Dakota, both at the university and in the private companies. If you want a coffee mug made out of coffee grounds, you can ask C2 Renew, that is another NDSU spin-off company, and they can make it for you. The coatings that protect these new materials also need to change. The overall properties are very complex. They need to be extremely high-performing. One coating always needs to make the job of an entire system of previous coatings in the past years. They need to be able to adhere to multiple different substrates as a primer. They need to stop corrosion. They need to look good, and they need to last a long time. And also, they need to be made out of non-toxic material. Sometimes they need to have very special properties, like invisibility, in the case of those military assets that want to avoid radar detection, like the drone or stealth ships. Coatings research, like we do it, requires a laboratory to create formulas and sophisticated testing equipment to evaluate properties like adhesion, durability in salt water or UV, and also removability. It requires specialists in chemistry, material science, engineering, and coatings. It's a time-consuming and very expensive process. We started Elinor with the idea that we go to the easy route by commercializing already existing technology developed at NDSU. And after 2 years of simply understanding the technology transfer and our need for space and capital, we began the licensing process with the NDSU Research Foundation for the chromium-free primer for aluminum I worked on when I was first arrived in 2001. It was already licensed for use in aerospace, so we took the rest of the marketplace. For years, we worked the circuit of the Department of Defense conferences for naval fleet maintenance, lightweight in Army vehicles, SBA Innovation Awards, SPIR research grants, and looking for entry points for product sales. Then we grew our capacity to handle outside research and development and began looking for consulting and also contra-research work. And we found that this is an area that has a large potential for us. With new material, though, comes new possibilities we never before thought possible. There is an entire new material library in New York City that designers and engineers can visit and consult with when they are sourcing the most exciting materials for their projects. The chromium-free primer we produced and developed is in that library. We spent much time developing and commercializing 2 more NDSU technology, one for protecting bronze from outdoor exposure and one for combating zebra mussels. Scaling up a formula, finding manufacturers, and chasing down distributors and consumers was our model for at least 5 years. We bootstrapped it all the way and took advantage of any program to support our operations.
So, our first lab in 2009 was a remodeled garage. We called the city of Fargo asking them if we needed a permit for a lab in our neighborhood. They couldn't find any ordinance against it, but they did advise us not to have too many delivery trucks. So we decided it would be best if not to raise suspicion on what Elinor actually was mixing up in the garage. And we found a lab that we could lease at NDSCS, the state school in Wahpeton that has a campus here in Fargo. Before that, we had even called our friend Michael over at that little company you heard of called Aldevron, and to ask if they had some wet lab space available. That was back when they had facilities back behind Hornbachers, and they were completely outgrowing their own space. You might have heard, we aspire to be them. We made a deal with NDSCS for a few years until we could move into the incubator at the Tech Park, west of NDSU. There we have our own lab, our own offices, and we're doing research, but we look to grow into a much larger space this fall. For years, we were actually unpaid, unable to get investors because they were a little scared of that long timeline and capital-intensive process of material development. We plugged away, appearing at pitch days for clean technology on the West Coast and innovation days for the federal agencies on the East Coast. We participated in business accelerators like Clean Tech, and free education like the SBA Emerging Leaders Program. I even went to India in 2017 as a delegate from North Dakota to the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. I'm still getting regular messages on LinkedIn from my contacts I made in India asking, when are we ready to expand to South Asia? Very soon, very, very soon. We've worked on very interesting projects and encountered many problems to solve. We've had tours with the head conservator of the gorgeous Getty Museum in Los Angeles, talking about brown statues, and then off to Detroit to the Army's industry days. This summer, we were out at Pelican Lake, putting test panels under docks to test coatings for zebra mussels. And then Dante met the director of the research of the Pentagon at a conference for the maintenance of the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii. I've been in shipyards in Fort Lauderdale discussing corrosion while standing on Alan Jackson's yacht. I met Aaron Brockovich, and of course we talked about chromium. Protecting statues and waterfront equipment, or yachts, naval ships, airplanes. There's a lot of stuff falling apart out there. You know one thing that could use a coating? The brass railings at the North Dakota State Capitol. Have you ever been there? Have you been yelled at not to touch the railings? We can take care of that, really. Let us help you take care of that. We're actually getting pretty good at getting stuff into the can, as we say. We can take a proven concept all the way to scale up and commercialization, but it's tough breaking into the market. We don't have a sales team. We need distributors. There is a demand for novel, high-performing coatings and sustainable materials, and there's a demand for quality coatings, research, and problem solving, both at the university and between private-public partnerships. That has not changed in the last decade we've been in business. When we started the company, Dante told me the average development time for a new material was 10 years. 3M didn't make a profit for 10 years, he said. Wow, that sounds great. Sign me up. Well, it's been 10 years. And although we still consider ourselves a startup, our patience is paying off. We just became an official Department of Defense subcontractor with a long-term research project with the Air Force to study new coating test methods and develop a new coating for multi-metal airplane use. We thank Senator Hoeven and his staff for the support of the innovators and the makers of this state. We are so appreciative of the other people in this room, of Greg Tavine's advocacy for the entrepreneurs of North Dakota and our emerging prairie. We asked Barry Batchelor for some advice many years ago, and he told us, sometimes you have to take up more space than you need, just to show that what you are going to become. In other words, manifest it into being. Last summer, I looked at our 2-person office in the windowless basement of the incubator, which, by the way, is a beautiful facility. But I decided it was time to get some decent real estate. We rented a space big enough for the employees we didn't have and the conference table we didn't need, and we moved in and had windows. And now we complain it gets too full, and it's too busy to work when everyone is coming and going. We cannot thank the staff of the NDSU Tech Park, and especially the incubator, enough. Thank you to everyone in the room, but especially those who've walked in our shoes. Coatings is an emerging player in North Dakota, but we gladly network with all of you industries because, as the author of the book Range says, the truly innovative ideas come from crazy combinations of unrelated experience and knowledge crashing together. We all do better when we all do better. And perhaps you need a better coating. That's the state of coatings technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante and Holly. So next up, we have the only guy that I know that has a walker as part of a fashion statement, Peter Chamberlain. Peter's the founder and CEO of a company called Walkwise, startup focused on saving lives and helping older adults maintain their independence through simple, innovative technologies. Please welcome Peter.
2 years ago, I happened to fall in my own dining room and broke a leg. It's been really the biggest challenge I've had in the last 6 years.
After Mom fell and fractured her leg, her main goal was to return home. When we decided that we were going to work to get her back home, we looked into a number of things that would be good for safety, and Walkwise was one of the things that we found that has been very helpful.
Walkwise is a smart walker attachment that doesn't require a wearable, charging, or a smartphone. Much like a hubcap, Walkwise attaches directly to the walker wheel. With the Walkwise app, you can see the activity of your loved ones and configure health and safety alerts. Walkwise helps prevent falls by making the walker fun and encouraging 24/7 use. With the option of an automatic text message when your loved one reaches their daily walking goal, they will take pride in their walker and their fitness.
The security that Walkwise provides has been a wonderful help and a lot of satisfaction to myself.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is always a fantastic event. My name is Peter Chamberlain, founder of Walkwise. It didn't always look this polished. These are some early prototypes, 3D printed. And that's what the very first version of our app looked like. So we've made a lot of progress. We still have a ways to go, but it's been an incredible journey the past couple years. So why am I here? I am not from Fargo. I'm not from the Midwest. I grew up in Oregon. I went out to the East Coast to do my graduate work at MIT. And I came here because of the universities, because my wife is a medical student at the University of North Dakota. So I was in Grand Forks for a couple years and then moved down to Fargo first chance I got. I love Grand Forks, but Fargo is awesome. So why am I doing this, right? Why have I made it my focus the last few years to focus on walkers when my friends are working at SpaceX and Hyperloop One and NASA and Tesla and all these places? It's because I had 3 grandparents that were all using walkers. And my grandma Ann had Alzheimer's disease, and as a family, we just didn't know how her day was going. Like, we couldn't call the senior living facility every single day and ask how she was doing. That was really hard for us. My grandma Merla, she would fall often, so she used a walker as well. And one night, she got up from bed, went to the bathroom, fell, broke a hip, and had to crawl to her nightstand table to grab a phone because she had forgotten to wear her pendant. And I just think that in today's day and age, that should not happen, right? If this happens, we should know about it pretty much immediately. A friend of mine, Kitty, was on the floor for 2 days in a senior living community. Oh, by the way, here's the alert. I'm going to play this.
This is a Walkwise alert. Peter's walker is ticked over. Thank you.
And I would have gotten this alert anywhere in the world. In fact, some people probably did. Probably my team back there. So a friend of mine, Kitty, was on the floor for 2 days. And that's just unacceptable when we have all these connected devices in today's day and age. So despite what the video showed you, mostly we work with senior living communities. That's where a lot of seniors are. It's where a lot of walkers are. There's a huge silver wave coming as the baby boomers retire, right? And in this industry, there's really low barriers to entry, and so there's a lot of competition. Communities are always looking to stand out from one another. There's a great opportunity to reduce healthcare spending in this space because, as you know, most healthcare spending happens in the later years of people's lives. And most importantly, there's a huge opportunity to improve quality of life because too often it just declines as people age. So this is what we do for senior living communities. We are essentially an instant wellness program for them, right? You install these on the walkers. We give the seniors handouts on paper because not all of them use smartphones. So every month, so they can take pride in their walker use. And then families have access to the app. So they have peace of mind. They know what's going on with their loved ones. They can help encourage walker use to help reduce falls, which costs the healthcare system $60 billion a year. And then for the senior living facilities, if they can reduce hospitalizations, they save money. We have patented algorithms that can actually detect changes in activity and everyday, just what's going on. And we can actually detect illnesses and urinary tract infections, which is really powerful. One of the organizations here in Fargo-Moorhead that's really taking this to heart has been Eventide Senior Living. Their vision is to be the premier care partner through collaborative and innovative solutions, and they have taken that mission to heart. So we started a pilot program with them about a year ago, and I'm not going to lie, it was rough, right? There were a lot of things that were difficult. We both made mistakes, but we learned together, right? And we even developed features together, things that I didn't even know they wanted. And just as of last week, they have committed to creating a model community where every single walker user will have Walkwise and can take pride in their fitness. So that's going to be fantastic. This is my team. This is the team that's going to make it possible. Nick and Jordan are back there, so talk to them afterward. I have a great board of directors. I also want to give a couple thoughts about entrepreneurship in North Dakota just because I've been in so many different places throughout my life. And too often these conferences become more about patting ourselves on the back for the good work we're doing rather than challenging us and saying, what do we need to do to get to the next level? And if you look at the statistics, North Dakota does need to get to the next level, right? We are behind in a lot of things as far as venture capital, as far as deals, as far as companies, number of entrepreneurs. So we can't be complacent even though there's people doing incredible things. But we do have advantages, right? And one of our biggest advantages is the North Dakota Development Fund and the Bank of North Dakota, two state-run institutions that are not afraid to deploy high-risk capital in innovative startups. That is extremely unique. We should be proud of that. We also have low cost of living, at least on this side of the state, which helps save cash for startups. And we have a close-knit community. We have people that show up to 1 Million Cups every week and show up to TEDx, and people are willing to be connectors. But we do have disadvantages. We have to acknowledge that. This is not a big town, right? We have a small labor pool, and it is difficult to get people to move here with the weather. That's just a fact. We don't have enough tech wins in our belt so far to get the sort of self-perpetuating cycle that we see in other parts of the country. We have some really fantastic examples, but what happens out on the coast is that the tech entrepreneurs from the dot-com bubble, or boom, invest in the next stage of startups, in the 2000s, and then they invest in the ones in the 2010s and 2020s, right? That's what we need to have happen. And what we see in North Dakota is we actually don't have any angel funds that invest in North Dakota companies. That is true. Some people are trying, but they haven't actually succeeded yet. Whereas South Dakota, they have at least 4 that are active, that are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in innovative companies in South Dakota, in North Dakota, and in the region. We need to step that up if we're going to get to the next level. So what can you all do in the audience, right? You're not here just to listen. You have to participate. Well, you can be an investor in a startup company. If you make more than $300,000 with your spouse a year or have a certain number of assets, you can invest money in startups according to the SEC, right? So look for those opportunities. If an entrepreneur calls you and wants 30 minutes of your time, give them 30 minutes of your time. It just might be the next big thing. Most of the people in the room probably have some level of control over budget decisions. Be a customer. Make it a priority to be a customer of startups, because that's what we need more than anything. And lastly, support our entrepreneurs. When you're thinking about policy decisions like access to affordable health care or net neutrality, things that we rely on every day to run our businesses, the communities that support entrepreneurs, that have us in their minds, see returns many times over. So I just want to thank you all for listening and learning about Walkwise, for being here, for participating in the tech entrepreneurship community. We have a lot of work to do, but I think we have the right people here to do it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. So next up is a really exciting presentation. So we have Jeff Young from WEX Health, and WEX as a company has spent nearly $1 billion here in Fargo over the past several years with different acquisitions. So Jeff joined WEX in 2014 when the company acquired Evolution One to create its healthcare technology business. He spearheads the company's efforts to simplify the business of consumer-driven healthcare and is responsible for WEX's growing healthcare business with a focus on industry-leading technology and a strong partner network. So please help me welcome Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you. I was all set with these remarks, and then I heard the question about the weather, and I just lost it. What's wrong with the weather? It's great weather, right? For at least 2 months. Thank you, Senator Hoeven and your team. Thank you, Craig Whitney, for putting this on. It's a fantastic event, great stories and exciting, motivating opportunities. One of the things that I know Craig and the Senator talk about when they get ready to plan this event is what brings the next generation of capital, what brings the next generation of successes, and it's people. And so you talk a lot about, we talked today about we have jobs, and that's great. But the thing that really creates the jobs is you've got innovative people, you've got people that really are willing to take some risks and do some things that are hard. And so, one of the things that I'd take out as a challenge is as you think about the number of jobs you have, I think it totally is dependent on how many people we can get. It's not the other way around. It's kind of a weird dynamic. In a lot of industries, it's, you have jobs and then people are going to come to them. we're in an industry where every job we have gets filled. And so it's kind of a cool thing. As you see these presenters, most of these businesses are coming and saying, I would have more jobs today if I had more people today. And so one of the things that I'll challenge as you kind of go through the whole thing is think about, where does the next person come from? And I think this is a great event because we can motivate each other to that end, but it's also kind of a cool event because you can sit back and say, what's it take and who do I take a chance on and who's the next, person that I can take that risk with. And so we appreciate being a part of this morning. Real quickly, the reason WEX Health is in business is because healthcare is hard and healthcare is expensive. And so it's pretty simple. We're trying to help people make healthcare a little simpler. We try and make healthcare a little bit less expensive. And so, we're in an industry where every single month you hear something that says, hey, the insurance plans are changing. There are different things happening in DC. There are different things happening in your different organizations to make healthcare, cheaper for an employer, which a lot of times makes it more expensive for a consumer. And so what you're going to see in our business is we're all about taking technology and making it available through some of the largest organizations in the U.S. to make healthcare just a little bit simpler and a little bit less expensive. As an overview to how we got here, as noted, it was a startup, Lighthouse One, a SaaS technology company. And as you think about Lighthouse One coming into Bell Capital, the Solberg family, just a tremendous business backer in the local area. Bell Bank was the initial investor. At that time, we had about 50 individuals, a handful of them in the Fargo area, and we had about 100,000 consumers. And I'm going to show you how that was able to grow over time. We got some outside investment, and at that time it was Genstar Capital, a group out of San Francisco. They were moving into a tech investment, and the tech healthcare business was an area they wanted to get into. And as noted, then later on we became a part of WEX Health. And more recently we acquired and added the Discovery Benefits team. And so it's just been a tremendous amount of growth. The Discovery Benefits team at that same time back in 2007, they were serving about, they had about 100 individuals in their organization. So you had about 50 individuals in the Lighthouse One organization, about 100 individuals in the Discovery Benefits organization. We're part of the WEX organization, and so if you think about what businesses we provide, we do business software and payments processing for fleet. So you think about Chevron, you think about the big oils on a worldwide basis. Our top business is fleet. We do corporate payments, and so you think about Expedia and Priceline and businesses like that. We're the technology behind those businesses. And then the health business is the business we got into about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the health business had grown from $5 million. When we started the business with Bell Bank, it was about $80 million the first year we were part of WEX. It'll be over $350 million next year, and just some tremendous growth in those areas. If you look at it, WEX all up, 74 billion transactions, over 3,500 employees, and we'll be near $1.7 billion in revenue this year. We partner with the nation's leaders, and this is a really fun job. We build technology. We've got about 2/3 of our team in Fargo, so the health team's got about 1,500 engineers and employees across the globe, and over 200 of those here. But the brand is out there. If you go on to the Apple iPhone store last year at Christmas, over 2/3 of the applications, if you wanted to look at a health savings accounts, were the health savings accounts driven by the technology built here. So you think about Bank of America, Optum, United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, some of the largest banks, some of the best health plans in the country, all using that software. We private label the software, they take it out. A lot of that is driven on the mobile devices, but it's a great way to innovate and extend their touch in what they do in their businesses. One of the things we're doing is, as I said, trying to make healthcare a little easier. There's Tax Day, April 15th. We've created HSA A-Day, Health Savings Account Day. And so if you think about one thing that the nation has gone to, and it's one of the few things that actually is a very strong bipartisan agreement, is there's a way to make healthcare easier, is to have tax advantage accounts. And so we've got Health Savings Account Day. We're launching it from the stock exchange in New York. And this will be, again, driven by our business partners, but we'll be there on behalf of our business partners. We got one business partner ringing the bell. We've got a lot of others like Bank of America setting up huge events around the country, and it helps their business, which is great. They make a lot of money selling health savings accounts, but what it really does is empowers and makes their consumers' lives a lot easier. And so when you think about the value of this thing, it makes it easier for them to understand what they can really do in the business community. Today, we power over 343,000 employers, over 28 million consumers. And so if you think back to that, we had about 100,000 accounts about 7 or 8 years ago, over 28 million consumers today. We service 563 of the Fortune 1000. It's kind of a fun business. We service a lot of really large organizations through some of our large business partners, but we also service some of the best small businesses. And so we work with people like Paychex, and they're out there servicing over 36,000 small businesses. And so one of the things that's fun about our business is whether you want to think about banks or health plans or third-party administrators, we service them. We service from large customers down to the small business, and we also do things in public sector. So we've got a lot of different vertical offerings as well. One of the things that Craig Whitney had asked about is he said, hey, I really want to see what you're doing for innovation. Show what you're doing in a technology stack so people can see where it's at. We are approaching a petabyte of data that we have. So you think about this. We have 28 million consumers. They are all online all the time. One of the biggest breakthroughs we did about 8 years ago, we built all native applications for the mobile devices, and we pushed that really hard. And so if you think about the most common scenario today, you can go into a store. I can look up and say if I'm out of town, I can find out where the drugstore is on my phone. I can go into the drugstore and I can look at my account and say, do I have money in this? I can take a picture of the item, and it says, is it going to be available with this account or not? And then I can go up, pay for it with my healthcare debit card, and then take a picture of the receipt. And the receipt is stored for me. And I can say, yes, I want to be paid with one click, or no, I want to store it and get paid in the future. And that's a transaction. And so when a transaction is that easy and that available on your mobile device, you think about the data. So our number of consumers grows about 20 or 25% a year. The amount of our data doubles every single year, and it's because people use the mobile devices so much. It's great for our business growth. It's also great for people wanting to stay and be a part of the community because they've got so much knowledge in that mobile device. And so that mobile device is the mobile device of Bank of America. It is the mobile device of United Healthcare. And then, like I said, it's the mobile device of people like Paychex for a whole bunch of small businesses out there. So it's a really cool environment. And so if you think about it, the mobile development is a big part of what we do. And then almost a petabyte of data has come out of this. And so the business intelligence that we can deliver to our business partners, to employers, and then also at a consumer level is really, really cool. And the video we're going to take a look at is showing you how we marry some of that business intelligence with some of that mobile device, and then that petabyte of data in terms of just how smart we can be in terms of helping people with their healthcare. Can we take a look at the video?
We are the name you need to know in healthcare financial management. 28 million consumers are already on the WEX Health platform, powering over 343,000 employer groups. The WEX Health Cloud customizable platform drives efficiency for benefit account administration, consumer engagement, and advanced billing and payments, while driving greater value and profitability for our industry partners. As healthcare grows more complex, we provide the tools to keep things simple. The WEX Health Cloud mobile app makes managing healthcare benefits easier, not harder. Consumers enjoy a variety of time-saving features right from their smartphone, providing consumers access to their benefits anytime, anywhere. The convenience of viewing and managing accounts is right at their fingertips, with easy access to the most commonly used tasks, such as file a claim and make an HSA transaction. Each year, HR leaders and benefit professionals search for ways to save money and control healthcare costs. Our built-in business intelligence solutions help users visualize and share data across the organization with ease. Self-service queries for impromptu insight, or predictive analytics and trend reporting, WEX Health Cloud provides the easy-to-use tools administrators and employers need to get jobs done today and to prepare for what's next. We provide insights that add up to results. Great things can happen when you turn the complex challenges of healthcare financial decision-making into powerful possibilities. At WEX Health, we make it surprisingly simple.
Hey, it's very fun, and that's just a little bit of the technology we deliver. And again, to all of those consumers, they make us smarter. All of those business partners are giving us feedback and making us smarter in the area of healthcare. But at the end of the day, it's really the team. You know, we've been so fortunate that we've been able to build the size team we have. We had people who took a chance very early on and were some of that first handful. Some of them were industry veterans who'd been around for decades. Some of them were very new and they were interns. And I remember recruiting some of the first industry veterans. It wasn't that much harder than recruiting some of the first interns interns because they're like, what are you doing and why are you building that? And we don't understand your brand or what you're doing. But all of those people, I want to thank and appreciate in terms of what we were able to do, because when you got the team started and you had an idea in a great business sector and then you stayed consistent with it, we had terrific investors and terrific business partners throughout. But that team has really been the power of what we've done. And so, again, going back to my first thought, you can think about the number of jobs that we have or could create, but to me it's about, who do you take the chance on? And as I think about, when we were recruiting the first interns and what they've turned into 10 years later, it's pretty amazing. Some of them are unbelievable leaders today. When I think about recruiting some of the 20-year vets, and some people are saying, yeah, those 20-year vets are a little long in the tooth, where are they now? And you go, man, they've done amazing things. And one of the cool things we have about in this industry and in this climate, as we look out at, who's the next person you're going to take a chance on? And whether it's a person who's a veteran and been around a long time, or whether it's a person who's just graduating, or whether you excite somebody to take the things they need to take in university to be ready for a great job, to me, that's one of the things that we can all provide. These stories are fun and they're exciting, but a lot of it is, how do you get the next person ready to graduate, and how do you take the chance on the next great star? And I think so many of the people in this, audience have been fortunate that people have taken chances on them, and now they have grown to unbelievable roles. And that's one of the things that I would say it's been a lot of fun, and it's also a challenge for all of us is, who's the next person that we're going to take a chance on and we're going to take a challenge with and grow great things. Again, thanks for your time today. These have been amazing stories. We appreciate being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Next, everything that I've said to this point has been a lie because we're actually going to take a 10-minute break. We're ahead of schedule, and if this was, Governor Burgum's event, there is no amount of ahead of schedule that can accommodate for that. But since this is Hovind, we're actually going to take a 10-minute break. I've been asked to be buffer and filler many times before, and it's a role that I kind of embrace. I don't know, it seems to be a well-known fact that if there's 20 minutes to fill somewhere and you need someone to talk, I'm the first choice, but we're going to spare everybody from that, and we'll take about a 10-minute break and come back with our next presenter. So feel free to get up and move about the cabin. All right, so our next presenter is from a company that I'm sure everyone has heard of. We have Joel Honeyman, who's the Vice President of Global Innovation for Doosan Bobcat North America. He's been in that role since 2014. In this role, he's responsible for driving a culture of innovation, partnering with leading global technology firms, and demonstrating the value of applying advanced technologies to current and new products, processes, and services. Please help me welcome Joel Honeyman.
All right. Hey, thanks. Hi. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the Chamber and on behalf of the Governor for having us here. It's great to have Bobcat talk about what we're up to. So let's get started. What I want to talk to you today about is some of the development we're doing. We're opening up a new facility in downtown Fargo. And I want to talk more importantly about why we're doing this and what we're doing there, which will lead you towards, of course, why we're locating there and the facility that we're going to be in. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you think about construction equipment and you think about the customer bases that we have, and all of us, right, we're consumers of technology, right? And our customers, construction customers that buy construction equipment, are no different, right? We're influenced by all of these new products and services that are taking place, all around us. And so they're telling us, hey, if I can have these conveniences in my phone or in my truck, why can't I have them in this construction equipment? Why isn't there technologies that can help me? And so these are the things that we're working on and we're developing. So let me give you a little deeper dive on why these are important. So there's really three trends that we're looking at when we talk about construction equipment. I'll go through these really quick. The first is social, technological, and then there's industry specific. So let's take a look at each of these. And these are probably the top ones. From a standpoint of a social aspect, we and all the things we have, right, we're getting connected, right? So the toaster, the wash machine, and pretty soon your toilet is all going to be connected to the internet, right? And so once it's connected, and by the way, I didn't make up the toilet. That's a real thing. That's happening in Silicon Valley. But all of these things are going to be connected. Maybe they shouldn't be, but the fact is once they're connected, they're giving off data. And they have the ability to be controlled, manipulated, but also give off information to improve the user experience. Along with that, Uber. And Uber's a big influence. And you might ask, why is a ride-sharing company a big influence? The reason being is Uber exposed a bigger problem, what to do with idle assets. They created a business model around how to share idle assets. And that's proliferating into our industry as well. And finally, Amazon. We're all familiar with Amazon. Amazon has trained customers to think, I want it my way, I want it now. I place an order today, it arrives at my doorstep tomorrow. That's influencing our customers. They want products and services right now for their business. Now, from a technological standpoint, there's lots of influences. These are the top ones. There's a lot of automotive technology that's coming into our industry. So we monitor automotive, talking about autonomous cars, the sensors, all the things that you have in your vehicles. Those things are going to come into construction equipment very soon. So we talk a lot to those companies in Silicon Valley and around the world. Also, camera vision technology is getting really cheap. You know, a number of years ago, a high-definition camera was like $1,000. Today, you can buy them for $50 online. So with that cost savings, you can actually put a lot of visionary things on pieces of equipment, buildings, whatever it might be. And electrification. Electric power is getting really cheap. Battery capacity is increasing. The cost is decreasing. So that means electrification is coming to our equipment as well. So these things from a technological standpoint are coming together. And then from an industry perspective, what's really happening in the construction industry, and there's probably some contractors out here, you know some contractors, what's their biggest complaint? They can't hire operators and technicians for their business. They're short of labor. And when you're short of labor, what do? You substitute capital for it, or you make capital more efficient to help them. This is what they're asking us to do. They're helping us to bridge that gap. Not replace an operator, but help bridge the gap where it's needed. Our customers are getting bigger, customers are consolidating, and when they get bigger, they want what? More sophisticated kinds of solutions. And then finally, computerization. All this equipment's got a computer on it now. So it has the ability to have telematic data, it has the ability to give off information, has the ability to be connected. So all these things are coming together at a really unique time when you think about construction equipment. If you look at a job site, in the last 30 to 40 years, nothing has literally changed. Like, it's the same type of equipment, it's the same type of operations that are taking place. In the next 5 to 10 years, it is going to dramatically change. There are startup companies out there that are trying to compete with us and other major manufacturers. There's global companies trying to pull these different technologies together to make breakthroughs like Tesla in our industry. This is why this is so important for us to work on this here in North Dakota. Okay, so what's our approach? What are we doing at Bobcat? We have 4 steps that we use in our process, and a lot of this is a lot of discovery work. The first thing we do is we make things believable. We're taking a lot of things early on to our customers, and that may be something that we've developed in a week or a month. But we want to get things in front of customers, bring this new technology in, apply a new technology, take it out to a customer. Once it's believable for the customer, then we make it functional. We make it in a format that they can use on their job site. They can think about how it might help them in productivity and how it might make them better on their, in what they're doing. And finally, if we're successful, and not everything will be successful, that's part of innovation, we fail, but we will commercialize those good ideas and those things that make it forward, and we'll scale up. One of the new things that we're going to be doing in introducing products here in the future is we're going to scale up our launches. We're going to go to select markets, we're going to go to select customers, and we're going to scale up, which allows us to refine that product along the way. These are tech products we're going to be doing. They're not nuts and bolts like they used to be. And in a tech world, you can do what? You can alter and change them really quickly. So we're going to take that same approach when we launch products here. And obviously, if we're successful commercializing, we can make them mainstream going forward. Okay, so what's our overall strategy? You know, what's our strategy for what we're working on and some of the things we're going to do in our downtown studio? We really want to leverage our equipment as a host to implement the new technologies. So this great piece of white iron that we've been building for 60 years is going to become a host for all of these new technologies. So let me give an example of some of the stuff that we're working on. The first thing is what we call machine IQ or telematics, right? This is where we're connected actually to the machine. We introduced this standard equipment 2 years ago. We now have 65,000 connected machines in the field. We have 19 trillion data points in our cloud, our Amazon cloud that we've collected. And that's allowing us to analyze this information, take better care of our customer. We're passing information through to our dealer to the customer. We're also able to look at duty cycles, other things to improve the products. That's really big data analytics. That's the big piece of what you can get out of these different pieces of data that you get. Combine manufacturing data with the telematic data, with a warranty data to improve our products. And so we're working on these things right now to analyze that. That's a big challenge. That's going to take a lot of time. Now, one of the cool things that we're going to introduce later this fall is software features on our equipment. And what we're going to do is we're going to enable a customer to use his smartphone or a Bluetooth device to enable a specific feature on their machine and pay for it right there. And we've embedded those features via software on our equipment. And this is going to make the machine much more versatile, allows our dealer to stock less inventory and bring it right to the customer. Like I mentioned, Amazon, right? It's a way for them to make it their way now. We're going to create some new connections through a new panel in our machines that's coming out this fall. But also the big one that we're going to work on is operator visibility awareness, autonomous operations. And so a lot of these are going to start coming out in the next year or so. One of them that we're really proud of, we partnered with Myriad Mobile here in town with, and that's to use an iPhone. So later this fall, you'll be able to use an iPhone and drive a Bobcat loader with it remotely. That's a really cool technology. But that's a platform that we're going to use to enable other features, again, make the customer more productive, safer on the job site. And that's just an example of some of the stuff that we're going to be doing on when we get into our new facility. So what is this studio? Okay, so we're moving into the black building. We're moving our digital business innovation team into the 4th and half the 3rd floor of the black building downtown. That's going to happen probably sometime in October. I'm sure we'll have some public groundbreaking on that, or some public event, I should say, on that. But we're doing this to accelerate innovation and technology. And there's really 3 keys for that, right? We heard from some entrepreneurs, hey, we're a big company. You know, it's hard for us to move quickly. Let's break away. Let's create some new culture, that entrepreneurial spirit, the startup culture for cross-functional teams. Let's bring in some new talent. This is a way for us to attract some of those techie kinds of people that don't necessarily think of Bobcat as a tech company. Let's use this as a recruiting tool. It's our way to create some internal think tanks, bring these pieces of information together. Here's something I'll say about tech development. We spend a lot of time, we partner with a lot of companies across the globe. You can do this stuff virtually. We don't have to have offices across the globe. We can do virtual development in today's world globally, and you can do that here in Fargo, North Dakota. That's okay to say that. 10 years ago, people were moving offices and doing all these things across the globe because you didn't have these tools to do it. You can do those things together. That's why this facility is so important for us. And then this new collaboration, speed, agility, working with our partners like Myriad to be able to come into our office and other partners that we're going to bring in to be able to do these tech developments. And just from the physical enabler, the physical space, we'll have a dedicated team space there. Our employees will be assigned by the project, not necessarily by the department. So if your project's there, you're going to be there. And we're going to create some new businesses out of this. We've got 2 new business ideas that we're thinking about, either spin-ins or spin-outs, that will be developed and housed there. And obviously, it allows us to unplug from our corporate headquarters. It's a great building, but it's a corporate headquarters. It wasn't meant for quick development. And so it's really important for us to have a facility that allows us to be able to do this. And then we can cooperate with a lot of different vendors really easily, bring them in and out of the space. So here's some pictures of it. It's going to be a really cool space. We did a lot of benchmarking of different facilities and tech startups. Here's the one thing we'd say, I don't know if we've accomplished it, but our mantra was, we want to bring San Francisco to Fargo, North Dakota with this facility, with the look, the feel, how it operates, what we're going to be doing in there. And so, you know, a very modular kind of space. You can see that center area, that's what we call our pitch area. Every week, we expect every team that's in there to report out on their activities of that week. We got to show progress in days and weeks, right? You can't move quick in an agile world in months and years. And so this is part of our cultural shift with the facility. And I think the picture that you see on the left, those are the windows facing out over Broadway. So we got some great views of the city. A lot of modular furniture. There's no offices in this building. The teams can configure their environment however they want, and you know, whatever they need in there. One of our other talks, and we'll see how well this goes, is this should be a no PowerPoint zone, right? If you're creating PowerPoint, you're in the wrong facility. We want to create and work on real ideas and collaborate with some real ideas along the way. And you can see, again, some more of the culture. So we really look forward to showcasing this and being a part of the downtown Fargo environment. But remember this, you know, for us as a global leader, we're a $4 billion company globally. You know, we're not only going to sell and support that great white iron that we built, a lot of it here in North Dakota, but also those features and services that come along with it. And that's going to happen right here in Fargo and West Fargo, North Dakota. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joel. So next up, we actually have a guest speaker who's not on the agenda. And so I'm actually going to introduce two people to come up. They're two close friends of mine, kind of on the side of what I do. I also, for the Chamber, teach a program called the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, where we take, you know, high school and middle school students and educate them about becoming an entrepreneur. And so I'm going to introduce one of my past students, who's also a former State of Tech presenter, and then Katie from the Chamber, who I'm not a script guy, I'm not a by-the-book guy. She's my script person for the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and she actually thought that this was still the hub, so she wore her glow-in-the-dark dress for the event. But without any further ado, Makai Selekwa and Katie Ralston.
Well, good morning. Before I turn it over to Makai, we wanted to give just a little introduction about the Young Entrepreneurs Academy for those who are unfamiliar. The Chamber's Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which is also known as YAY, is a program that we brought to our community 5 years ago now. And what we do in our program is, over the course of 25 weeks, we help middle and high school students develop businesses with the goal that they could launch their business upon graduating from our program. Over the course of a school year, our students are learning under Josh Teigen's instruction. They're also hearing from guest speakers, touring a lot of businesses in our community, and working with mentors who help them finish their business plan and prepare for an investor panel competition. So today, in the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, we want to give Makai Selekwa, who is a member of the very first Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo YAY graduating class, who is still running the business that he started in our program. And we're very proud of all of our YAY graduates, but especially excited for students like Makai, who continue running their business for years after they've completed the program. So without further ado, please welcome Makai.
How are we doing today? Okay, we're good. So this is kind of an impromptu speech. I was not ready to necessarily talk about this. I was just expecting to be an audience member, but I don't mind. That's fine. So, my name is Makai, founder, CEO of Weblin. Now, you may be wondering, what is Weblin? I love that question. So, Weblin is a community building platform that allows you to get paid to show up to events. Pretty intense, isn't it? We are a blockchain-based community building platform available on both iOS and Android. That allows for you to find out about different events happening around you and allows for you to have a straightforward way to build your community. Us as a company, we are focused on creating innovative and fun solutions in order to promote the health of both individual and community involvement. with that, there is a specific problem that we are focusing on. In this day and age, humans have began to feel a psychological toll, essentially from the advancements of technology in modern day society, especially from social media. And it's kind of ironic because as opposed to technology being a supplement to regular social behavior, we've seen how it started to kind of replace regular social behavior. And that's why it's not necessarily the only reason, however, it's one of the biggest reasons that we've seen an increase in things like loneliness, depression, emotional numbing, and so on. It's the idea of us not truly being connected to each other, that sense of community that cannot be replaced. This, you can't necessarily just replace this staring at your screen. So let's look at a couple elements of the problem. Social participation has kind of been on a decline because all these companies are hitting you with dopamine so you can stay at home, stay on your phone, just keep getting those likes, keep watching and binging those movies. Altruism and volunteering is not as common as it used to be because at the end of the day, is there any real incentive outside of social gratification in order to do that? And the decreased amount of community participation has kind of started to hinder general communication and people skills. And if we wanted to advance further as a species, we have to actually know how to connect with each other. I usually laugh about this thing because we want to go to Mars, right? And yet we're still out here struggling how to connect with each other. It's, ugh. So there is the solution for you, Webland. We allow you to get paid to participate in your community and much more. With Webland, you can earn money and rewards for attending events. You can gain insights on the amount of activity happening in your community, and you can, it's kind of a little feature we're rolling out slowly, but you'll be able to see what you have in common with others at the events that you attend. And most importantly, we do revolutionize the way we build communities. Now, whether you're a business, whether you're an individual, brand, if you have a mission, if you have a goal, interest, or hobby, you have a straightforward way in order to make a positive impact on your community. A little bit about our progress and traction. So the funny thing is Webland isn't always what it used to be. Way back, it was something completely different. However, there was this little key feature. It was the event notifier, and we took it and ran. Developed the app for both Android and iOS, and we've reached a point where we have over 3,500 monthly active users since the active release. On our social accounts, we've gained over 4,000 followers, and when it comes to revenue, given this is an application, we're an application company, and it's a small number to you, maybe, I understand, but it's a big number to us. Over just $6,500 in revenue from sales, ads, and merchandise. And now we have this is dated, but this is actually over 20 different partners for events, rewards, means of distribution, monetization, and so on. This is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. It's also I don't want to be tooting my own horn, but community organization is in dire need of disruption. We do not only need a more efficient means of connecting with each other, but we need a more authentic means of connecting with each other. Why? Again, connecting with each other, we are not designed to just do that with a screen. And essentially, us as a company, why do we feel like it's going to have to be us? Or what makes us be able to stand the competition? Well, we are a company full of digital natives, ranging from our founders. We've just grown up with basically a phone in hand, and we just understand and have the intuition for how this kind of technology behaves, as well as how it affects us psychologically. And especially, the biggest thing, we do know what makes users tick. We are the first movers in this specific market because there is no other platform that allows for you to get paid just to participate in your community. And even something as simple as our brand, our voice, our colors, our design, our strategy, we have the sauce to bring the social life back into our lives. A little bit about our founding team. And if you want to know more about Weblen, be part of the vision, be part of the movement, we do have a site. Download the app, check out the personal site, check out our social media, and so on. That's us, Weblen, building involved communities.
All right. Thank you, Makai. And so now the next portion of the morning is going to be the presentation or for the 2019 North Dakota Information Technology Awards. So the Technology Council of North Dakota represents more than 65 businesses, educational institutions, and state agencies across the state with an interest in advancement of technology. Please welcome Justin Ford, TechND Board Chair and Senior Director of Government Relations for Midco, to present the awards.
Thank you very much. Great to be here with so many friends from across the state at today's event. Been a pleasure for me to be a part of this for many, many years, and thanks to the Chamber and specifically to the sponsors of this event, who are also some of our lead partners in the Technology Council of North Dakota. So our champion program members for TechND include Midco, DCN, and Microsoft, and really helping make these type of events happen are some of our lead members of TechND as well. So thanks to everyone for sponsoring today's event and all of our sponsors of the Technology Council of North Dakota, which was founded in 2000 by government and business and education leaders who recognized the need to strengthen our state's technology infrastructure and position ourselves as a national leader. We've been working on that for 19 years, and we're still working on that today. For those of you who aren't familiar with TechND, we'd encourage you to go to our website and join us. Tech policy is becoming more and more important for all of our industries, and we need to have the best possible tech policy we have to provide the best future for our state. We need you guys to come forward with your ideas and your problems so we can help fix them and really have North Dakota be a continued leader in technology and in tech policy. It's now time to recognize our award recipients for their outstanding efforts and vital role in technology development in North Dakota. These recipients of the awards are changing the face of the technology industry within a state and are a true inspiration to others in the industry. This program was created in 2001, and as we've evolved, past award winners are also listed on a program insert. We have 3 categories: Premier Technology Business, Technology Innovator, and Technology Champion, that recognize outstanding individuals and entities for their contributions to the use, growth, and development of technology in North Dakota. Our award presenters are with us here today, and we're Senator John Hoeven and Todd Domries, TechND Vice President and Director of Sales for Dakota Carrier Network, will be presenting the awards to this year's recipients. And now on with our award winners. And the recipient of the Premier Technology Business Award goes to Bushel. This recognizes a business that has achieved outstanding success by developing and providing technology business solutions. Formerly Myriad Mobile was started in 2001 in the North Dakota State University Incubator and has grown into an agriculture technology company focused on delivering software and technology platforms in the ag industry. It's now grown to over 130 employees. Bushel has become a leader in software technology for the grain industry, benefiting more than 100 grain and agronomy companies in the US and Canada, and more than 14,000 farmers who use the product every month. It has successfully raised more than $9 million in investments and is currently raising additional capital to accelerate Bushel as one of the nation's leading ag players in the industry. Bushel was also named Inc. Magazine's Best Place to Work in 2018. We now have a video from Bushel.
How do we fix the problem where a farmer doesn't actually have access to some of the data at the elevator? How do they make better decisions if they don't even have access to that type of information?
We'd deliver our grain and get our tickets, and we'd have to put them into an Excel spreadsheet and add them all up and get our totals. There wasn't anyone else out there that seemed to have the features that we wanted or the right product like Bushel did.
The core differentiation between one elevator and the next is their people, how they interact with their grower, and the technology they're using. Obviously, you can go and dig around and find your contract in paper form somewhere, the tickets, if you can find those, great, but it's a lot easier if it's just right in your pocket all the time.
Innovation's always been part of the farming culture. Everybody's got a phone. More and more people are doing business on the phone. We have to make sure that we're staying on top of that to provide that to our customers.
Part of the solution was to integrate directly with the elevator so that we could get that information in near real time to a grower. So a grower now can log in, it's really simple, and they're logged in for a year.
By being able to provide their account information at their fingertips, we're providing the service to our customers that they need and they require to maintain the operations of their farm.
Bushel was made to be just really simple. Everything is what it says it is, so if it's price later, you click price later, that's what you see.
With the Bushel app, it gives us live, on-the-go amounts we've hauled in.
For the first time, they actually have this information coming to them, automated. You're not typing it in, it's just coming to you right from the elevator system to your phone. And that's something that is a huge step forward. All of your data from the elevator is coming into the app, so you know your contract, delivery times, you know your progress towards the completion of the contracts, scale tickets, price later, so if you've got grain sitting there and you just don't really know how much you've got at the elevator, you don't have to make a phone call, you can use Bushel.
The Bushel product provides that pioneering innovation spirit with excellent service, and the Bushel team fits that as well. Questions or concerns, they're right on top of it. You know, they're really responsive to support calls.
In our marketplace, it's becoming a necessity almost to have this. The more informed you are, the better decisions you can make.
Being able to use Bushel to be able to provide fingertip information for their scale tickets, for their contracts, what they've prepaid for fertilizer, having that available to our customers is a great service that we're able to provide to them.
You don't have a computer within your combine, but you got your phone or your tablet, and you can bring the app up and see how much we've hauled in and trust that.
Everybody wants things on their phone. Everybody wants to do business on their phone. They want information at their fingertips whenever they want it.
The next generation really wants this, and I think it really helps drive business.
Accepting the award is Jake Jornstead, CEO and co-founder, and Ryan Ragus, executive chairman and co-founder.
Got him? All right, good. Way to go, guys. Just like the Academy Awards.
Absolutely.
Just like the Academy Awards, we get to say something. All right. Yeah, but short. When the music starts, you have to quit. As long as we don't ramble on, we get to say something. All right. So Ryan, my co-founder, and I, really excited about this. Appreciate the honor. We've been trying hard for, it seems like a long time to continue to build a business in Fargo. We enjoy doing it. You know, the brand change to Bushel for us just signifies that we're focused on agriculture as a whole. So that is our 100% focus as a company, is serving the ag world. We're excited about that. It's a tough time in agriculture, but we think there's a lot of opportunity ahead. So if you're interested or know people who are interested in joining our team and helping us build solutions for ag, come find us. We're excited to change the game here. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for this. This is really appreciative. Technology for every generation has meant something different. For baby boomers and the greatest generation, it meant maybe landing on the moon or another rock out in space for the first time. And for today, it might mean being an interplanetary species going to Mars and colonizing that. But sometimes technology can also be simple, right? And so some of our technology we're building might help a farmer go home to his family 5 minutes faster because he can get something more access on his phone, and that's worth fighting for. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.
Next up is our Technology Innovator Award. This recognizes a non-technology specific entity that is a leader in the use of innovative technology to serve its primary customer. And the recipient of this year's Technology Innovator Award is WEX Health. In 2014, WEX Health Integrated Partner Channel, a self-service portal for WEX Health partners, provides sales, marketing, and operations support. Since its implementation, more than 85% of WEX Health hundreds of partners have enrolled in the portal. Please play the video.
So, who is WEX, and what do we do? Powered by the belief that complex payment systems can be made simple, we are a leading provider of payment processing and business solutions across a wide spectrum of industries, including fleet, corporate payments, and healthcare. Since our founding in Maine in 1983, we've grown to serve tens of millions of people around the world. This growth is fueled by our passion for continuous innovation and for providing a level of service that is unparalleled in the industry. We employ more than 3,000 WEXers in 11 countries across the world, and we're still growing. Our annual revenue in 2017 exceeded $1.25 billion. We provide payment security to more than 11 million vehicles in North America, Europe, Australia, and Brazil. We process more than $7 billion through our travel and corporate payment solutions in 210 countries and territories. And our healthcare offering is used by 300,000 employers in the United States to help power the healthcare payments of 25 million Americans. Not only does WEX have a passion for its customers, we also have a passion for serving our communities where we live and work. We are WEX.
Accepting the award for WEX Health, Mitch Franks, General Manager at Discovery Benefits Services, and Kyle Finner, Manager of Sales and Administration. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Very quickly, just want to thank our leadership team at WEX Health, Jeff and the team, specifically IT, for giving us the autonomy to go after building these platforms and for our partners in making their lives more productive. So thank you for that. And a big shout out to True IT, who's been a partner of ours for the last 5 years. Worked very closely with them, so thank you. Out of West Fargo, they've been fantastic to work with. So thanks and enjoy the event.
Next up is the North Dakota Technology Champion Award. This recognizes an individual or entity that has championed the development of a North Dakota technology company, the promotion and use of technology in the academic realm, or the delivery of technology to North Dakota citizens. And this year, the award recipient of our North Dakota Technology Champion Award goes to John J. Simmons, Chairman of Carbon-Tech Energy Corporation. Mr. Simmons founded Carbon-Tech, which is the developer of clean energy and environmentally friendly technologies for energy and other industries, in 1988. Carbon-Tech has developed the low-carbon footprint e-iron process in cooperation with Michigan Technological University to use organic biomass in the place of coke or coal and minimize the negative environmental impact of iron making. It has also recently developed a magnetic oil spill sorbent to clean up oil spills in lakes such as Sakakawea or the Missouri or Yellowstone rivers. In addition, they are currently developing a Clearlight carbon technology and utilization process to reduce emissions from gas and coal-fired power plants in the Dakotas. Mr. Simmons is also the chairman of Thermal Technologies LLC, a Carbon-Tech-related company that manufactures and markets super-absorbent, fire-retardant, water-gelling polymers for the fire suppression and fire protection industry. Mr. Simmons has been active in statewide organizations and serving as a former director for the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation Board and on the University of Mary Board of Directors. He received the North Dakota Entrepreneur of the Year Award from the University of Mary in 2005.
Congratulations to 2019 North Dakota Technology Champion Award winner, John Simmons. Under Mr. Simmons' leadership, Bismarck-based Carbon-Tech Energy Corporation has been developing clean energy and environmentally friendly technologies for the energy and other industries since 1988. Mr. Simmons has more than a dozen patents in areas such as energy, coal, carbon dioxide reduction, iron nugget production, wood products, chemicals, and oil spill cleanup. Most recently, Carbon-Tech developed the low-carbon footprint e-iron process in cooperation with Michigan Technological University. This process uses organic biomass in the place of coke or coal, minimizing the negative environmental impact of iron making. The e-iron process produces pig iron grade nuggets with carbon dioxide emissions that are 85% lower than standard blast furnace practice. Mr. Simmons is also the chairman of Thermal Technologies, a Carbon-Tech related company that manufactures and markets super absorbent fire retardant water gelling polymers for the fire suppression and protection industry. The thermal gel fire suppressant, used on the ground to protect houses and dropped from air tankers and helicopters to suppress wildfires, is used in the United States, Western Canada, Australia, Mexico, and Malaysia. Carbon-Tech Energy and Michigan Tech are also developing the Clearlight carbon dioxide capture utilization process. A pilot plant has been installed at the Michigan Tech gas-fired steam plant. A reduction of 90% of the CO2 emissions have been obtained with low-cost, non-corrosive carbonate chemicals. A more recent development, Mr. Simmons has developed a magnetic oil spill cleanup product, trade-named CCD Magnetic Oil Sorbent. Carbon-Tech is building a small plant in Bismarck to produce this oil sorbent, designed to immobilize and clean up major oil spills from large lakes and rivers, such as Lake Sakakawea and the Missouri and Yellowstone River. TechND congratulates Mr. Simmons on his significant achievements in clean energy technology development.
Congratulations, Mr. Simmons. Please welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Senator Hoeven, Chamber. I'm privileged to be with such an outstanding group. People out there, I'd call you doers. You know, people, there's a lot of talkers around the world, but what we have in meeting here today are doers. You saw a few of the things that we're involved in. Two items that we're excited about, especially, will have some effect on North Dakota. One is our carbon dioxide reduction process. You can reduce carbon dioxide. There's a lot of people working on it, but we're looking for a very inexpensive way to do it. We found we can use certain carbonate chemicals, and first pilot plant, we're at about 55% reduction. Now we're up to 90%. It's not commercialized yet, but we're going to build a larger demonstration plant as a next step. And of course, we're developing a product we hope there's not any use for, but it has to be there. North Dakota, in the event of a major oil spill on the river or in Lake Sakakawea or even on land, we've had developed this product a number of years ago. Now we've improved it, and we've made it so it's magnetic. We had a spill at the refinery in Mandan a while back, and we had just finished producing this material in our pilot plant. So they called us. We sent over so many super sacks. They had a project they were expecting to take 3 or 4 weeks to clean up. They clean it up in 3 days, about 98, 99%. So we're excited about that. But thank you very much. Thank you, Senator. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you all. The Technology Council of North Dakota, if you're interested in championing the technology sector with award recipients like great award recipients we have today, and if you're interested in making North Dakota truly the state of technology, please join us at TechND and help us take our state to the next level. Thank you so much for the opportunity today.
All right, thank you, Justin, and congrats to all the award winners. So next up, it's my pleasure to introduce you to actually my former boss when I was an intern at the Kilbourne Group, and another well-known face of entrepreneurship in the North Dakota community. Greg Tavine and Barry Batchelor are going to be talking about the Grand Farm Initiative, which you guys have all likely heard of. Greg Tavine is the co-founder and executive director of Emerging Prairie, and Barry Batchelor, chair of the board at Appareo, and they're here to give us insights on the developments of the world's first 100% autonomous farm. Please welcome Barry and Greg.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Tavine, and it is an honor to be here. I want to start with a little bit of appreciation. First of all, I want to appreciate Senator Hoeven. For years, he's been an advocate for entrepreneurs and a driver in this idea of technology as the third wave for our state. He's challenged us. I think what most people know, he's an advocate in DC, but what's less known is what he does for individual companies. I think of his work helping Appareo with opportunities, folks like Bushel, constantly helping solve problems, reducing barriers for our entrepreneurs to gain access. So big thank you to Senator Hoeven. Second, I want to show some appreciation for Governor Burgum. At his State of the State 2 years ago, he challenged all of us to dare more boldly, courageously, solve harder problems. And it's that inspiration that has led us to the work of Grand Farm. I want to bring you way back to 2017. The Twins were in last place, and it was a different time. Not really. It was before downtown, had a big skyscraper going up. But in March of 2017, one of the great technologists in the history of our region, Barry Batchelor, challenged us at 1 million cups to say, what is our major? What is our community's inherent ability to solve big problems? After that 1 million cups, I drove around with Barry and he asked, Greg, what could we do? What could I drive my granddaughters around this region and say we did that no one else could do? We started to think about some possibilities. We had some absolutely terrible ideas. We started to dream of a robot parade. We started to dream about a robot challenge. And then we started to think about what if we looked at powering the first ever 100% autonomous farm. We think about the innovation of the history of this region, whether it's at our universities, folks like Joel and his team at Bobcat, the activities at Titan and RDO, and these major organizations. And we said, what if we put our collective energy together to look at the Grand Farm Initiative? And so when we put this idea together, we organized the steering committee of some of the strongest thought leaders in our region, and we asked ourselves 3 questions. Is this idea real? Could we power the first 100% autonomous farm? Is this an idea that has merit? Does it matter? Does it actually improve the human condition? And the last question was, can we win? Can we out-innovate the folks in Israel, in the UK, in Brazil? And we've came up with that conclusion. Our community's advantage is advanced technology in agriculture. So with that, I'd like to bounce past it over to a friend, a mentor, a hero, and the newest head of engineering at Appareo, steering committee member, Barry Batchelor.
Can you hear me now? Good morning. By show of hands, how many folks in the audience here have been to Disney World in Florida? Yeah, quite a few. When you were there, how many folks have been to the Epcot Center? Good show of hands. Put that thought aside for a second. How many people here have read Good to Great or Building the Future or any of the Steve Covey books that relate to Built to Last, that kind of thing? Okay, so I'm going to connect the dots here. In Steve's books, he writes about the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. And he talks about certain companies that bet their entire business on these BHAGs. Boeing was one. At a time when the 747 was being conceived, it was an amazingly difficult thing to do. And Boeing literally bet the company on making that aircraft. And for decades, it dominated air travel. Walt Disney had a BHAG. And his BHAG was, after the building of the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland in Florida, or in California, he saw that as being, although he was in the entertainment business, he saw that as being too basic entertainment. He wanted people to dream. He wanted people's imaginations to catch fire. And he built that area to do that. But he saw that it was locked in. It was locked into an urban area, and the ability to do more and interesting things there was limited. So he went and bought some swampland in Florida, and he decided that he was going to build a new entertainment area down there that would be composed of two parts. One would be this Magic Kingdom part, the fantasy part again, but the other part was going to be a city, a real city where people lived and people worked. And he called this city the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. And his intention in that city was to contact the best and brightest minds and scientists in the world, the best businesses in the world, the most advanced thinkers in the world, and around their thoughts and visions and products, build a city that people lived and worked in. Unfortunately, Walt died in 1966, and that was such an audacious BHAG that nobody ever really followed through on it. I mean, it was an off-the-charts BHAG, right? I'll skip this slide here to the end. This is a, so the question is, what is the Grand Farm? And the Grand Farm is going to be in this area an embodiment in agriculture of a component of the vision that Walt Disney had for his city in Florida. It will be a real farm. People are going to live and work on this farm. And like the vision that Walt Disney was trying to project with his Epcot Center in Florida, this will be a place where ideas are spawned. It is our intention in the Grand Farm, much as it was with Walt Disney, to bring to this farm the brightest and best innovations worldwide. We will create a living environment on the farm that embodies advanced technologies that will be relevant to rural farming life 20 years ahead into the future. And we're going to focus this thing on a common platform. The consideration we're having in this farm is the problem of providing food and fiber to a growing planet, in spite of the things today that are inhibiting that growth. The environmental issues that inhibit that growth, the conversion of populations from primarily grain-based populations to more protein-based populations. There are dozens of inhibitors that are pushing back on the ability to feed this growing planet. There's going to be 3 modules. We're going to talk a little bit this morning about one module, but the BHAG is not complete unless you put a roadster in orbit around the sun. And so our thoughts grow bigger and grow in a serial fashion. The first module is farming in the developed world, farming in a place like North America. The second module, after we have grown out, we've begun to get our pieces together on this thing, will be a concentration on farming in the developed world. Now, we have the resources. If you look at this community, when you talk about the BHAG that we have discussed here, if you look at our university system, if you look at our businesses and industries, we just heard Joel from Bobcat, there's some amazing things going on in this region that when you put those Lego blocks together, you develop an opportunity to build very, very unique systems. And these are two areas that are very important in the concept of feeding a growing world. The third, which is really out there, literally, is farming in space. Now, we may think that's pretty crazy, but when I grew up in New York in the mid-'60s, we were putting people on the moon. And anybody who's ever seen a blueprint of a Saturn V rocket might wonder how such a thing was ever really put together. We actually, 50 years ago, right about this time, put the first man on the moon. Nobody has been there since. In the last 4 or 5 years, commercial enterprise in this nation has caught fire, and people are putting their roadsters in orbit around the sun. And the point between here and some envisioned future space application is getting smaller and smaller. There's commercial talk about putting people on the moon again in 4 years. Elon Musk, in the work he's doing with SpaceX, in his LEO work and stuff, wants to fund his mission to Mars. And within the lifetimes of many people here in this room, there will be people living in space, in various parts of space. You people, many of you people, will live to see that happen. So although it's like a totally out there BHAG, and if you take and look at the thoughts and the technologies, you'd say, what right do we have to do this? Well, when you think of what we're doing up at UND, in aerospace up there, when you think of what we're doing here at North Dakota State, with the stuff that we're doing in crop developments and so on, hey, we have a perfect right to consider that space. Some things are a little scary. The world population is going to grow by another 2 billion people. We're about 7 billion people now. By 2050, we're going to have 2 billion more people to consider. The people who work in developed worlds in agriculture, this is the United States, but if you look at the left side of this graph, there's over 70% of the people in the United States were involved in production agriculture in the early 1800s. Today, it's less than 2%. The participation in production agriculture has dropped and will continue to drop. Our families are getting older, not just here, but in Western Europe and all of the developed world. The people who are involved in farming operations are getting older. The demographic, the amount of people that are working in this area are aging. Population is dropping. When we were young, a family farm might have 8, 10 kids. And it was no problem going next door to borrow a kid to drive the tractor, run a rake, whatever. Today, I know from first-hand experience, my father-in-law had trouble getting people to drive a beet truck at harvest. They're just not there. If you put these things together and you look at what that has spawned, the farms in North Dakota, the land is not going out of tillage. It's just being acquired by more and more neighbors. My wife is from Ada, and I'm from New York. So, I mean, I was quite a hit on the farm when I first showed up. Like that Picciani commercial, New York. You know, Grandpa wasn't excited about a New Yorker showing up in the place. But I learned over time that the technologies that are relevant cross many boundaries, whether you're from the East Coast or the West Coast. Joel showed some stuff about what's going on technologically in California. But when I first went to Ada, Minnesota, where my wife was from, and I drove to her farm, which was about 5 miles north of town, I probably passed 18 farms. If I'd have gone back 50 years earlier, I would have passed 80 farms. Today, when I make that drive, I pass maybe 4 farms. The land is being farmed, but the farms are getting bigger. Now, these are demographics that so this stuff's not showing up on the slides here? I'm talking to myself here. Oh, there we go. So these are demographics that they're just not non-debatable. I mean, you look at the numbers, and the numbers are what the numbers are. Families are getting smaller. Farms are getting larger. Farmers are getting fewer and further between. So the issue that needs to be addressed here is how do you bring production agriculture into the next century? How do you meet this need for a growing population in a farm structure that's getting smaller and smaller, the number of families? Another interesting fact is education, for example. When I went to visit my wife in the 70s, she had graduated from Ada High School. Now I think it's like Ada Borup Felton High School. They're bringing all these high schools together because There just isn't enough population to keep the system running. So there's 3 farms that we're talking about here, but there's one curiosity. And the first farm is the one that we spent a little bit of time on here, is the Developed World Module. And here we're going to try to address these issues. We're going to try to speak to the issue of what is it like in a farm in 2030, 2040 in Robinson, North Dakota, where the farms have continued to get larger. The families have continued to get smaller. What do we do about healthcare? What do we do about transportation? What do we do about energy? Now, many of these farms in our state and around the country were electrified by the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, back in the 50s when cities were all electrified, but there were an amazing number of farms that didn't have any electricity on the farm because that last mile was too expensive. Running a power line out 30 miles someplace to start distributing power was considered too expensive. The government stepped in, helped with the rural electrification, and the farms were then electrified. Those farmers that are using electrical power are now getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we're reversing the problem again. Where we made economic sense to have power out to these people, they paid for their services. What happens when 200 become 100, become 50, become 20? How economical is it to run power to these places? What do we do about energy self-sufficiency on the farms? What do we do about communications on the farms? What do we do about healthcare on the farms? What do we do about education on the farms? What does a farm in that area look like in that era? These are really important problems. And we have an opportunity here to pioneer all of that, to ask those questions and to postulate solutions to those questions. And this is what we're working on initially with our first generation module. The second generation module, again, will draw from expertise here in the community, and we'll speak to a unique set of issues, unique set of circumstances that are upon us in the developing world. We believe we have an opportunity, we have an obligation as a technology leader at the Grand Farm to show a path towards self-sufficiency in food and fiber to a growing world. And that will be a secondary operation. Finally, drawing on the advanced technologies around here in the next 8, 10, 12 years, we will be considering thinking about what does it mean when you leave the planet. A farmstead of the future, so we talk about the fully autonomous farm. What we're not talking about necessarily is a bunch of machines. We're talking about an ecosystem. And we're saying that the farm of the future will need to communicate. Probably they'll be communicating on LEOs with low Earth orbit satellites. Probably they'll have gigabit data links using these types of technologies, and you probably read about them. There's 4 or 5 companies right now that are investigating putting satellites in orbit. Not just a few satellites. Elon Musk is talking now about putting over 3,000 satellites in orbit that will blanket the Earth with high bandwidth coverage. That sounds like a crazy number, but he went and set up 60 here a few months ago. He's on his way. OneWeb is looking at it. Facebook is looking at it. Blue Origin's looking at it. It will be a fact that this planet will be blanketed by thousands and thousands of satellites, and communications will be instantaneous to the most remote parts of this planet. We want to pioneer that here. We want to understand that here. We want to encourage industries in this area to explore those technologies. You've probably seen Elon Musk's solar tiled roofs. These are technologies, solar cell technologies are rapidly advancing. An energy source that's available relatively inexpensively. There are technologies that are going to be relevant in 10 years. We'd like to explore those here. Solar energy storage and energy. Electrochromic windows. I don't know if you guys have ever been on a more recent 787 Dreamliner. We took a flight last month over to Europe on one. I spent half the flight playing with the window. This thing is electrochromic, and you touch it and it starts dimming. If you touch it more, it gets more opaque. You can go totally opaque with this glass. That type of technology will at some point find its way into the average home and farmstead as a method of controlling energy loss or energy impact for cooling and energy loss for heating. as much as we're going to be concentrating on the domicile itself, we're going to be talking about the life inside. Telematic medicine. I think Sanford talked a little bit a few months ago. They're working with some companies to develop diagnostic tools that you can have in your home. What happens when you're in a place and the nearest hospital is 150 miles away? What type of tools for your sick children, for yourself, will you need in order to do a good job of telematic medicine? A telematic machine operation. These machines we talked about will be operated autonomously and with input from the operator. In the world of 2050, 2030, we will be coexisting with intelligent machinery. It's happening already, but there will be machinery in our homes and outside our homes that are up. So I went on a trip to Alaska here recently, and we got on this train, the beautiful Alaskan countryside. There had to be 200 people on this train. And everybody was oohing and eyeing the waterfalls, and there's a bear, and there's a moose. And then we got into cell phone coverage range, and I looked around, and there were 400 heads on their cell phones. Nobody was looking outside anymore. What Steve Jobs and the industry has done with these cell phones has created an incredible social continuum, a social methodology that we have not considered before this. I mean, now you are woven tightly into the fabric of communications and social media by this device. 15 years from now, that same type of interaction will take place between us and sentient machines. We'll be operating in and around robotic equipment. We want to be able to do some of that at the farm. Finally, education. How do we handle primary and secondary education in very, very remote locations? So generally, this is what we're doing. Our intention here is to build a real physical farmstead, to populate that farmstead, as Walt Disney was hoping to do with the most advanced technologies. We'll be approaching businesses locally, nationally, internationally. We'll be asking them to participate by contributing to this technology, their latest ideas that we can incorporate into this physical structure. All of that is going to come together over the next 10 years as we build out the Grand Farm. So this is what we're up to. This is the information that we wanted to bring forward to you today.
We believe the project is real. We believe it's work worth doing, and we believe we have a chance to win. Several folks in this room have stepped up and said, we're willing to help. We're going to need more of that support. We ask for your patience as we're building this effort while we're talking about it, but we're grateful for the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants that have made huge impact in advanced technology and agriculture as we continue to try to feed the world. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg and Barry. So now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our partner for this event, Senator John Hoeven. In 2011, Senator Hoeven was sworn in as North Dakota's 22nd U.S. Senator after serving 10 years as governor for the state of North Dakota. Under his leadership, North Dakota saw remarkable expansion and diversification of its economy, including in the agriculture, energy, and technology sectors. Now the senator works to implement the same kind of pro-growth policies on a national level. Senator Hoeven serves as chairman of the Senate Agriculture Appropriations Committee and the Indian Affairs Committee, and is a member of the Agriculture and Energy Committees as well. Further, he serves on the Senate Republican High-Tech Task Force, Unmanned Aerial Systems, Air Force Caucus, Entrepreneurship Caucus, and other Senate groups, and maybe has the best mustache in the entire state of North Dakota. Please help me welcome Senator John Hoeven.
Thanks. I like that last part about the mustache. Can always trust a man with facial hair. You know that, right? All right, everybody stand up. Stand up for a minute. Just stand up. Wiggle around. Say hi to the person next to you. Shake. Move. Straighten out your clothes. Take a drink of water. Okay, now sit back down and relax. That's your 7th inning stretch. So first I want to thank the Chamber, Craig Whitney, and the Chamber, and all our sponsors. Obviously, we couldn't do it without you. They do a fantastic job. We love this venue. Hope you like the venue. Because we can move it around. We've had it at different places. They do a great job here. But this is our 9th Tech Expo, and we appreciate you being here. Of course, more importantly, we appreciate what you do. And that's what we try to do, is to showcase what you're out there doing on a regular basis, day in and day out, making things happen. Like John Simmons said so well, focusing on the doers, because this is the third wave. This is the third wave of economic growth development in our state. And you're the ones making it happen, and this is an opportunity to hear about it, to see it, to recognize hard work and great accomplishments, but also for us to figure out how we can do more to help you continue to make it happen. That's what Tech Expo is all about. And so as you hear from all these great presenters today, it's because of all the great work. It's because of all the great work that they're doing. And we want to help them continue to do that work. I talk about it. Oh, and I want to thank my great crew, too. Jessica Lee, Alex Fick, and my great crew. I'll tell you what, they do a fabulous job. We appreciate them so much. But to put this into context a little bit, and I'm kind of between speakers. I mean, we're here today to hear from these great speakers and hear about what they're doing. And then also, I'll be introducing Dana Peterson, and she'll be talking about how hopefully we, she, and others can continue to help you do more of it. But just for a little context for a few minutes here between speakers, I want to talk about how things tie together, you know, the big picture. In other words, when I talk about technology and technology entrepreneurship being the third wave, it really is the third leg on the stool of our economy here in North Dakota. So, you know, it was great hearing from Barry and Greg about the Grand Farm Initiative and the future of agriculture and innovation in agriculture. And the reality is North Dakota has always been a leader in agriculture, right? For as long as we can remember, Barry even talked a little bit about the history of agriculture and how farm sizes have changed and all those kind of things and how technology has driven that change over time. But we are absolutely an ag powerhouse, and we always have been. But you never take that for granted. We always have to continue to find ways to lead forward in innovation so we remain the absolute best farmers and ranchers in the world, and so that we lead in agriculture, and so that we're successful in agriculture. And agriculture faces real challenges right now. We know that, and I'm going to touch on that for a minute, and how this ties into technology and the other things we're doing. So we're a world leader. North Dakota is a world leader in technology. And I like to put things in those terms. I believe in that. I believe we are world leaders in a lot of these things. And I want us to do more of that. And there's no question we're there in agriculture, and we need to keep building on it. And then energy. You know, when I started as governor in 2000, certainly we were strong in energy. We produced energy, but we weren't the powerhouse that we are today. We implemented a plan called Empower North Dakota, and without question, if somebody's talking energy in the United States, they're talking about North Dakota. They might be talking about fossil fuels, they might be talking about oil and gas or coal or traditional energy, or they might be talking about renewables, renewable fuels, wind, solar, you name it. But if they're talking energy, they're talking North Dakota. And they're talking about how North Dakota is an energy powerhouse. The only state that produces more oil than we do now is Texas, including Alaska and Louisiana, all the states that people have always thought of as being energy powerhouses. We're ahead of all of them, and in all types of energy, right? But again, we can't just kind of rest on what we've done. It's what are we going to do next? And that's where technology comes around and closes that circle, where it puts the third leg on that stool, okay? So yeah, tech entrepreneurship, companies you've heard from today, and these are just a few of them. Like I said, I think this is our 9th Tech Expo, and I think we've had more than 70 different companies present over those 9-year period. But, you know, obviously you've got Josh Teigen out here, and he's had Protesthetics and now MindShift. You had heard from Dante and Holly, and they've talked about Eleanor Coatings and more great stuff coming, right, guys? But fascinating what they're doing, you know, looking at coatings that our military can use. You heard from Greg Wettstein and ID Fusion, Peter Chamberlain with WalkWise. Some of our award winners, Jeff Young and WEX, Jake and his crew at Bushel. And you guys stand up again. Jake, there he is. So you're so modest, Jake. Is there like a spotlight we can put on him, or come up front here where they can see you? So he's so modest. He's up here. He accepted his award, kind of gave a gracious little award speech. But you're holding out on us, man. Once again, Inc. magazine in designating their fastest growing companies in the United States. What company did they pick? Just name one of your favorite companies that is once again on the list for the fastest growing company in the United States, Inc. magazine. Who is it? Bushel! Let's hear it. One of the fastest growing. Fourth year in a row. So you're going for some kind of record. You're like the Bison. You're going for records here. 5, then 7, then 9. Yeah, okay. Well, the Bison are still ahead of you, but 4 is pretty good. Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And that's what we're talking about. And so many more. Even some of our more established companies like John Simmons and Carbon Tech, how he continues to innovate and do more. Or you just heard from Barry Batchelor, but he didn't talk about Appareo. But Appareo they're doing amazing stuff. I mean, I'm hearing more and more around the country and all the amazing things that Appareo is doing. And of course, you heard from James Brown, and you know what Aldevron is doing with their expansion here in Fargo. And those are just some of them that you've heard from this year. But it all ties together in a bigger context as well. For example, one of the big, as I said earlier, we have real challenges in agriculture right now. And a big part of that challenge is trade, right? And a big part of that trade challenge is China, right? $1.5 billion worth of soybeans each year going from North Dakota to China. China's taking advantage of us. Obviously, we're working to get access to markets on a fair basis, but in the meantime, it's tough on our farmers and our ranchers. And I'm working to try to help get through that process with the market facilitation payment and those kind of things while those negotiations are going on. But big picture, shouldn't we also find ways to be less dependent on China? Shouldn't we find more ways to be in control of our own destiny, whether it's ag, whether it's energy, whether it's technology, whether it's anything else? Absolutely. So right now, we're working on a project to build a soybean crush plant at Spiritwood, the Ag Energy Tech Park just east of Jamestown, right? And we've been working to develop that tech park, and the latest thing is we need a soy crush plant there. Because then instead of sending millions of dollars worth of soybeans to China, we can send a lot of those right to Spiritwood, right in the middle of our state, take away the transportation cost, the so-called basis, and what are they going to do? They're not going to just crush it and produce oil. No, that's where our advanced technology, where the developments we're doing, where that 3 legs of the stool come together again, because they crush the soy at Spiritwood, and then it goes out to the refinery recently built just west of Dickinson, now owned by Endeavor, and they make what? Renewable biodiesel fuel. Renewable diesel fuel. And that goes out to the West Coast where they want low carbon fuels. Now we're not dependent on sending that product all the way to China. We control our destiny, and we create other opportunities with the meal and feeding livestock and those kind of things. And then we can raise more cattle and send it to the European Union, where we just signed an agreement with Europe to export 3 times as much beef as we have been able to do historically. Those are the kind of things that we have to be doing. There is a nexus of agriculture, energy, and technology to make it happen. Doing things that nobody else is doing. And that's just one example. How about Dakota Gasification Company? They're taking coal, they're converting it to natural gas, they're capturing the CO2, they're putting it downhole in oil wells to reduce the carbon footprint. But that natural gas they're producing now is in a market that's very, very difficult, right? Because we're producing more and more natural gas as we drill oil wells. Where do we market that natural gas, right? We're constrained in terms of pipelines and LNG facilities and getting it to market. So the value continues to go down even as we produce more natural gas. And we also have the issue of flaring, right? What do we do? Dakota Gasification, they start all the way with coal as their initial project, or feedstock, goes all the way through to natural gas, but now how do they market? Well, one of the things we need in agriculture every year is fertilizer. Where do we get our fertilizer? Where does our anhydrous come from, right? Indonesia. Not exactly next door, right? It's not like, you know, going to Moorhead or East Grand Forks. It's a little longer trip. So the fertilizer that our farmers get comes all the way from Indonesia, meaning you got all that transportation cost. And oh, by the way, if it's a shortage, they have to go through all of farm country before they get to us. So everybody else gets it first, so we're the last to get it, and it's the most expensive. But we're the best farmers in the world, and we have to compete, right? So Dakota Gasification Company says, okay, we're going to spend $500 million, which they did, and we're going to build a fertilizer operation to take that natural gas and convert it to anhydrous right here in the middle of North Dakota, so our farmers in North Dakota and this area can get fertilizer here, and we've got this natural gas feedstock. So we're going to go all the way from coal, we're going to capture the CO2, and we're going to produce fertilizer right here rather than buying it from Indonesia. How does that play into the ag world? Pretty darn good. Oh, by the way, it's also a $500 million investment in North Dakota, creating jobs, opportunity, new technologies, and a higher standard of living, right? And at the same time, we have to solve problems. I mentioned capturing CO2. We have the most advanced coal-fired electric industry in a country in the world. But they face challenges. They face challenges in terms of the cost of energy, competition from natural gas, wind, other types of energy. Ultimately, that's good. It benefits the consumer in a competitive market, but they have to make money to stay in business, and they have to capture CO2 to reduce the carbon intensity, right? And if you think about it, if we can develop that technology to the point where it is commercially viable, keep bringing down that cost curve, combine it with putting that CO2 downhole in oil wells to produce more oil and gas, right? If we can solve that equation, not only is that good for our industry here and all those high-paying jobs, but think about it. What does it mean? What happens with that technology when we develop it and we make it commercially viable? Other places around our country and ultimately around the globe adopt it, and what happens? You reduce CO2. Those are the real solutions driven by what you do every day. And they have a national and a global impact. And that's why it's so important you do it. So back to what I said at the outset. And I haven't even brought up, you know, Grand Farm and the fact that they're going to actually lead the way in precision agriculture and all the possibilities that creates, as Barry and Greg so wonderfully described here just a minute ago. Or how about UAS? The top companies in unmanned aviation in the world are coming here, like Northrop Grumman or General Atomics or Harris or you name it. They're coming here because we've built an environment where they can do what you're doing. Innovate, research, create, grow, invest, create fabulous jobs, hire fabulous people, and continue to set the curve when it comes to all things technology in the world of aviation. So with that, I'll wrap up. I actually have 54 seconds left on the big clock here, which is just enough time to do an introduction, so I think I'll do an introduction. As I started out at the beginning, this really is to showcase you, the doers, and what you're doing. But it's to help, as Tom Cruise said in the movie Jerry Maguire, it's to help us help you. I think he actually said help me help you, but it's pretty close. We want to help you in what you're doing because it matters. It's making a big difference. This tech thing, this tech entrepreneurship, we're on our way. I mean, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm very appreciative of all you're doing. So we brought in some folks today, and we're going to start with Dana Peterson. She's the USDA's lead policy advisor on next generation precision agriculture, as well as the cross-department efforts to access broadband. And by the way, through my Appropriations Committee, we have appropriated $1.1 billion for broadband, all right? So all you folks, the smart people that are working on that area, let's make sure we're investing that broadband, getting that and investing it in this region. Dana joined the USDA in March 2018, serving under the Assistant to the Secretary for Rural Development, focusing on e-connectivity, quality of life, tech innovation, and developing the rural workforce in the economy. Last year, she was named Acting Chief for the Rural Utilities Service, where she has been instrumental in building the Reconnect pilot program, again, that big broadband build-out that I just referenced. She grew up in Kansas on a farm, love that. Got a bachelor's and a master's degree from the second best school of agriculture in the nation, Kansas State University, second only to NDSU. Go Bison, and please welcome Dana Peterson.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you, and my thanks to the Senator for getting me out of the Beltway. I am a Kansas farm kid. I grew up on a farm just west of Highway 281, 2 states south of here. So it's great to be out amongst farm people. Just a quick poll. Who in the audience grew up on a farm? All right, I knew that would be a good turnout. So today I have the great opportunity of sharing with you a little bit about what the Department of Agriculture is doing for the next generation of precision agriculture. In the picture on the slide is Secretary Perdue. He took over when President Trump asked him to lead the way for agriculture. And this is a picture of him at a farm show, which Secretary loves connecting with farmers. And he had an opportunity to look at all of the technologies that are available at the tip of a finger for farmers and ranchers. And he came back to the department and he gathered a team and said, let's get to work. The secretary, on the first day of his job at the department, was asked by President Trump to actually take the reins on a task force looking at agriculture and rural prosperity. That task force really identified that e-connectivity in rural America is the central pillar to prosperity across the country. So things started moving from there. We've been working across the federal government to really look at how we can streamline and simplify broadband access across the country through the American Broadband Initiative. Multiple agencies, multiple departments really connecting to try to make it an easier path through the federal system for broadband connectivity. As a result of all of that work, we really tried to look at what is it going to take to pull this service through the economy, right? So it's one thing to put the infrastructure out there, it's another thing to actually use it. And companies like our telecom companies and DCN, they require customers to actually pay off the loans and to fully use the grants that are given. So the secretary led the way in really kind of asking the department experts, the economists and the researchers, to look into what would happen if we had full adoption of precision ag technologies on the farms and fields of America, as well as full connectivity across America. And when we did the analysis, we discovered that the potential economic benefit for America to do these two things is $47 to $65 billion in annual economic benefit. That's a huge number, and that's something we need to run for. So as a result, within the Department of Agriculture, we're really looking at what we can do as the hands and feet of the federal government involved with farmers in their operations to make this a reality. We have a number of different roles that were identified in the A Case for Rural Broadband report that came out in April. And these roles really kind of help guide all of the bureaucrats within the department really to work one-on-one with our customers, farmers and ranchers, and small businesses across the country. as we went through this work, and we have been working on this since the end of April, we're seeing a number of key challenges. We have the challenge of data privacy. Who owns the data? What sort of access shall we have at different levels and for different uses? We need to be able to understand e-signature and e-authorizations. So that is applicable both to USDA programs, but also outside. We really need to define the complementary policies across the federal government, across the many, many agencies within the Department of Agriculture, and we need to really assess the impediments. So in order to overcome these challenges, we've gathered a team of subject matter experts from across the department, and that's the team I have the honor of leading. We are working intensely on the problem. We started at the end of April. Our projects will end at the end of September, and we'll have a number of policy recommendations to set before the Secretary's desk. And in that team, we have 16 different agencies represented. So we have everything from the Farm Service Agency to the Ag Marketing Service. We have the Economic Research Service, as well as those who are involved in conservation, working together on 4 different work streams to really tackle some of these challenges on behalf of our customers. And this morning, I thought, what am I going to talk to all of these business leaders in Fargo? Fargo and North Dakota is known as some of the leaders in the adoption of technologies. I used to work for wheat farmers. There's wheat farmers across the state of North Dakota. And I know that these farmers and ranchers are the ones who actually do the pencil work. They find out if the technology pays, and if it does, they adopt it. So as I contemplated coming up to North Dakota, I was like, these folks are on the front end of that adoption curve. What could I offer? And then I got to thinking about all of the startups in the room. And I thought, well, you know, USDA does have quite a bit of research. And we do have this opportunity really to get that research out of our labs and into the hands and minds of people who really can put it to work. So I thought I might do just a little bit of sales job and let you know that the Department of Agriculture has 6 different teams of researchers, everything from the Ag Research Service to the National Ag Statistics Service to the folks at the Forest Service and the Natural Resource Conservation Service. These researchers are working on problems that folks in agriculture and natural resources have today. As a result of their work, there is a great amount of discovery happening, whether it be the data discovery that's happening out of the Statistics Service or the technological tools that are coming out of the Ag Research Service. So how do we get those into the hands of the folks who can make money from them and generate more business? One of the Secretary's ideals is that Made in America research really gives us that new technology that creates business opportunities and private sector jobs. North Dakota has jobs, and we want to keep encouraging that. So the USDA does have a tech transfer office that is within the Ag Research Service. That transfer office provides an avenue for those research discoveries really to get into the hands of businesses that can use them. In addition, we have tools in the incubation realm where we can really provide the tools, the funding, the education that's necessary to get that technology going. And we do have tools in rural development and other places for small business commercialization of those technologies. So I wanted to make sure that you as the audience knew that we have those opportunities available. But really, Senator Hoeven asked me to come talk to you a little bit about the challenges that we see within the Department of Agriculture, within the industry of agriculture, and to contemplate some of the opportunities. As I had the opportunity to come up to North Dakota, I wanted to be sure and talk with people who actually build things and grow things and do things. As a farm kid, one of the things I don't like about living within the Beltway is that a lot of the times we just sit around and talk about problems. And so I had the opportunity to come up and talk with the folks who do something about them. So as I present challenges, as we consider opportunities, let's work together, private industry, public, government, federal partnerships to overcome these challenges. One of the key things that we're dealing with within the department is our data. We have a long record of data in ag research, in conservation programs, in what farmers and ranchers have planted in the acres across the country. We know what sort of conservation practices have been adopted with the federal funds that have been given out across the lands. However, we have a very antiquated and mismatched data system within the department. We are trying to get it together. We have an ag data library that is coordinating those efforts, but there is a conversation around standardization of the data that we have within USDA and making sure that our data is accessible to those of you in the marketplace. So that is one of our challenges. In addition, we have this challenge of rural connectivity. I know North Dakota is on the leading edge of connecting schools. You have the gigabyte service to all of your schools. That is tremendous. But we have the additional opportunity and challenge to connect every acre. That's a big, big job. So the USDA is really trying to have a conversation with the Federal Communications Commission, with Chairman Pai over there, another great Kansan, and overcome this challenge of really getting out to every acre. In the past, we've gotten out to every household, to every school. We're getting out to hospitals, but we really need to cover every acre. Let's turn to opportunities. With all of this data, with this steep challenge of connecting every acre, we really have some tremendous opportunities in learning from the data. While I was up here, I got to meet with some very smart folks who are really digging into the data and using machine learning and AI to really overcome and take us to the next generation of what we can do with this data. That's really exciting. In addition, we're also just going leaps and bounds into new technologies, whether it be the drone technologies that's coming out of the aerospace industry or the chemical technologies that are coming out of polymers and chemical industry. There's just a tremendous amount of new technologies. So we need more ingenuity. We need more folks who see something here in this industry and say, hey, you know what? That might help our problem over here. So one of my life mission statement is to grow leaders who grow leaders. So I know here in North Dakota, we've been hearing about it all morning. This is also a core value of many of you, because what I see before me as I've visited with folks over the last couple of days and sat and listened this morning was really that you are investing in that next generation of people. You're investing in the next generation of technologies. And you're really investing in the next generation of America and of North Dakota. So thank you for those investments. Thank you for your energy and your attention and your leadership for our country as we take our country to the next generation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dana. Our next and final presenter, I'm super excited to introduce. At first, I thought we had Van Halen on the schedule, but we don't. We have someone better. We have Joe Van Valen. So Joe studied computer science at Stanford University and then went on to study criminology, law, and society at the University of California, Irvine, before he began his career as a senior software engineer for AOL. He is an Air Force pilot and FAA licensed airline transport pilot with over 2,300 flying hours and experience operating high-performance jet aircraft for the Air Force. Currently, Joseph serves as a White House Fellow in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. In this role, he leads advanced transportation policy for the White House, including unmanned aircraft, supersonics, and automated vehicles. Please help me welcome Joe Van Valen.
All right, I understand I'm the last thing between everyone and lunch, so I have a 45-minute speech here prepared for you. Just kidding about that. So first of all, thank you, Josh, for that generous introduction, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to speak at today's conference. As an Air Force pilot and a policy lead at the White House, when I think grand skies, when I think innovation, I think North Dakota. And this is my second time here in my 1 year at the White House so far. So I'm excited to be here with you today and to share a little bit about what we're working on at the White House. But I'd like to start with a broad thank you, if I could. Senator Hoeven, Chamber of Commerce, businesses and residents of North Dakota, your innovative spirit and commitment to leading from the front is great for America, and it makes my job at the White House just a little bit easier. At the outset, I'd like to highlight that the Trump administration's focus on industries of the future starts at the top. During the President's State of the Union address this year, he called on our nation to invest in cutting-edge industries of the future. Now, this vision has been our guiding principle since inauguration, and since then, we've moved the needle significantly in industries of the future like artificial intelligence, quantum, 5G, and advanced manufacturing. Our approach is based on a strong desire to enable innovation, embrace new discoveries, and empower people to benefit from emerging technologies. So I'd like to take our time today to talk about 3 technologies that we think will change the world, what we're doing about it at the White House, and how you are supporting American leadership in those areas: drones, supersonics, automated vehicles. So I'll start with drones. When it comes to industries of the future, the drone industry is one that embodies innovation. The FAA started requiring registration for all drones in 2015, and since then, over 900,000 owners have registered their drone. Last year alone, monthly registrations averaged 8,000 to 9,000 per month. In comparison, only 220,000 manned aircraft are flying today, total. That's general aviation and commercial. So let me put that into perspective. 900,000 drones registrations in the last 4 years, 220,000 total registered manned aircraft, and that number has remained relatively unchanged since 1990. So that right there should tell you everything that you need to know about the drone industry. It's new, it's exciting, it's growing, and it is the future. Since 2015, the FAA has been faced with a challenge. How do we integrate the growing number of drones into our airspace in a manner that's safe, efficient, and not disruptive to commercial operations? The FAA knew this had to be done, but it's a difficult task to do without adequate data, and it's an especially difficult task to do from a desk in Washington, D.C. So our view is that drone operations are not one size fits all. Operations in an urban environment in San Francisco are different than those here in North Dakota, and regulators must take this into account to create rules that work for all Americans, not just those in Silicon Valley. So with this vision in mind, President Trump directed the Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, to establish a pilot program called the UAS Integration Pilot Program, or IPP. Many of the people in this room are probably familiar with that. And this program aims to use public-private partnerships to help regulators work through the challenges in this space, but also to challenge our innovative private sector on what is in the realm of the possible when it comes to drones. How can we envision new use cases that are going to change our way of life? So we took over 200 applications, and our administration selected the top state, local, and tribal jurisdictions to work hand in hand with industry partners and the federal government to push the boundaries of drone operations and to explore how we can move forward in this exciting field. Simultaneously, last year, President Trump also signed into law new authorities for agencies to detect and stop drones that pose a threat to our critical infrastructure, public safety, and national security. And so by taking the necessary security precautions, this action will keep Americans safe, but also greatly expand our opportunity for commercial drone operations. So the drone pilot program is about 1.5 years old, and so far, America's innovators are knocking it out of the park. And this innovation started right here in North Dakota. Last October of last year, I was here with Michael Kratsios, U.S. Chief Technology Officer, just down the road at the Fargo Air Museum and Fargo Dome to witness the beginning of North Dakota Department of Transportation's first public drone mission as a part of this program. A short 8 months later, I received word from the FAA that North Dakota Department of Transportation was awarded a 4-year waiver to routinely conduct drone operations over people, the first of its kind, right here in North Dakota. So during this time, the FAA also released proposed rules that will normalize these operations nationwide, and that's our goal. So without your leadership here in North Dakota and the leadership of President Trump, we couldn't have done it. So thank you, North Dakota, for leading the way. You are truly making a nationwide impact. But our work is not done. With the help of America's innovators through this pilot program, the FAA is tackling more complex operations like beyond visual line of sight. And I'll have a shout out for Northern Plains UAS test site for leading the way there as well. Our top drone regulatory priority now is rules for remote ID, so that drones will be required to report their position. This will allow drones to operate in more congested airspace and, more importantly, allow law enforcement and others the ability to identify drones that are operating in areas that they shouldn't. And we look forward to working with Congress on expanded counter-UAS authorities so that state and local law enforcement will have the tools that they need to mitigate disruptive drone operations. So that's drones. I'll move on to supersonics for a little bit. In our quest to reduce regulatory barriers to innovation, another exciting area that we're quickly moving out on is civil supersonic flight. So just think, with all of the progress that we've had innovating pilots out of airplanes, and I'm a pilot, they're innovating me out of the airplane, which is good. Today's jetliners are still flying at the same speeds that they were in the 1960s. Since the Concorde's final flight in 2003, research and development in this space has all but stopped. But we're about to change this. Just last year, President Trump signed into law bipartisan legislation that directed the FAA to demonstrate global leadership in the domain of safe and efficient operation of civil supersonic aircraft. Keeping this promise, in June, the FAA announced proposed rules that mark the beginning of completely redesigning our supersonic testing regulations. This is the first movement on supersonics regulation in almost 50 years, and it's the first step towards getting America flying supersonic again. America's innovators have already answered this call and are using the benefit of modern technology and advanced manufacturing techniques to design new, quieter airplanes that would make supersonic flight even more accessible to Americans than it was during the Concorde era. Now, our approach to this revived industry is cautious. These new airplanes must be environmentally responsible with reasonable noise levels that don't disrupt communities around which they will fly. And with the help of NASA and the private sector, we are looking at new aircraft design characteristics that will make the perceived noise level of a sonic boom similar to that of a car door closing. So I know what you're thinking. How is the return to supersonic flight going to help the average North Dakotan? Valid question. And my answer is this. Aeronautics research and development is very unique in that it is often breakthroughs in one area that will lead to significant advances in other areas. And so our view is that if we enable responsible testing, supersonics research and development may yield breakthroughs that make supersonic, hypersonic, and even commercial space travel more accessible and broaden our horizons on what is the realm of the possible. The Trump administration is focused on a bold vision of American leadership here, and in partnership with our vibrant private sector, we can do it. Finally, automated vehicles. I saved the best and most complicated for last. Automated vehicles are another technology area with the potential to significantly alter our way of life. But before I share what we're working on here, I'd like to discuss why I think automated vehicles on the roads are a more complicated policy area than drones. And so I'll use an analogy from the FAA. So when the FAA thinks about how to write rules for drones, they think about the 3 A's: airmen, aircraft, and airspace. In order to make effective regulation, the FAA must address all 3. Luckily for them, they control all 3. So it's much easier to write policy when your agency has purview over all of those domains. Now, in the case of automated vehicles, it's a little bit different. With airmen or drivers, the states determine the requirements for driver's licenses. For aircraft, or vehicles in this case, manufacturers self-certify under guidelines published by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And then for airspace or roads, depending on which road, that could be either state, local, or federal. And so this federated system is an American bedrock since our founding fathers, but in this case it creates a little bit of a complicated policy environment where one agency doesn't necessarily control all of the domains of regulation. And I'd argue this is a good model. Using the same argument that I did with drones, operating automated vehicles on congested roads in California is different than operating them on the open roads of North Dakota. And so recognizing this complicated policy environment, the Trump administration is taking the lead with a vision for automated vehicles that, again, leans on our American innovative ecosystem and recognizes that states know their roads best. A one-size-fits-all approach, in our view, will not work here. So in 2017, the Department of Transportation released a Vision for Safety 2.0. And this initiative calls for industry, state and local governments, safety and mobility advocates, and the general public to together lay the path for deployment of automated vehicle technologies. The following year, in late 2018, the Department of Transportation built on 2.0 by introducing AV 3.0, which is titled Preparing for the Future of Transportation. So AV 3.0 expands the scope of 2.0. It outlines a process for manufacturers to work with the Department of Transportation, and it marks the beginning of a national discussion about the future of our on-road surface transportation system. And so I encourage you, if you have time, to read this 80-page document. I'll attempt to summarize it for you here. In it, we highlight 6 principles that outline our federal approach to automated vehicles. And I'd like to share these with you. So first, number 1, we will prioritize safety. 2, we will remain technology neutral. Number 3, we'll modernize regulations that are currently on the books. Number 4, we'll encourage a consistent regulatory and operational environment. Number 5, prepare proactively for automation. And then lastly, we will protect and enhance freedoms enjoyed by Americans. And so our team and the Department of Transportation believes that automated driving systems are the way of the future, and we hope that advances in this sector will help reduce the number of Americans, estimated 40,000 each year, killed in car crashes. So I've shared with you a few thoughts on drones, supersonics, automated vehicles, 3 technologies that we think will change the world. If I had another 40 minutes, I would love to share with you some of our other initiatives, but I'll give you a couple quick highlights. Whether it's the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative, which is our bold national strategy for U.S. leadership in AI that also prepares America's workforce for jobs of the future, or the National Quantum Initiative Act, bipartisan legislation that accelerates the development of quantum computing. One of my favorites, which was discussed earlier, the Rural Broadband Initiative, which is our commitment to prioritizing broadband infrastructure investment in rural America, including 5G, so that rural communities have access to fast, reliable, affordable internet access. In summary, the Trump administration is working for you, and I am proud to be a part of the team, and I really do think it's a team effort. It includes private sector, academia, government, and nonprofit. I am inspired by what America's innovators can do when we clear regulatory barriers and set conditions for success. Thank you, Senator Hoeven and the Chamber of Commerce for today's event, and thank you, North Dakota, for leading the way. You exemplify our nation's innovative spirit, and together we are lifting our nation up. When it comes to the realm of the possible, the sky is the limit. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes our list of speakers for the day. Just kind of in closing, I wanted to thank our presenting sponsor again, Dakota Carrier Network. Also wanted to thank Media Productions for a flawless tech event here at the State of Technology. Makes a lot of sense. And also, lastly, I just kind of want to say thank you to all of you. I truly believe that North Dakota is the best place on earth to live and also to start, run, and grow a business. And so all of you in this room are part of helping to make that happen. And so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of all of our speakers and everyone else in the state of North Dakota that's involved in entrepreneurship and technology. So hopefully it was a valuable experience. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for coming.